transformation before we change society kind of thinking. I'm calling for both our American and global societies to embrace a new bottom line so that every economic, political, societal, and cultural institution is considered efficient, rational, and/or productive, not according to the old bottom line of how much these institutions maximize money, power, or ego, but rather how much they maximize love and generosity, kindness and forgiveness, ethical and environmentally sustainable behavior, social and economic justice. This new bottom line seeks to enhance our capacity to transcend a narrow utilitarian or instrumental way of viewing human beings and nature, so that we respond to other people as embodiments of the sacred, instead of thinking of them primarily in terms of how much they can serve our interests. And also so that we can respond to nature not solely as a resource for human needs, but rather through awe, wonder, and radical amazement at the beauty and grandeur of this universe. I call this new consciousness revolutionary love, and its goal is to create the caring society, caring for each other and caring for the earth. The vehicle to create this new consciousness we will call the Love and Justice Movement, and eventually the Love and Justice Party. The revolutionary possibility of love is the kind of love that breaks through those distortions of consciousness that make it difficult to implement a national environmental policy or to end the many forms of oppression that permeate our world. To really embrace revolutionary love requires us to develop a strategy way beyond anything currently being given serious attention in the media, the political parties, and even many of the social change movements. And it requires us to move beyond what seems realistic in terms of the contemporary frame of discourse.
companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
Research like that!
Our book today in the Thom Hartmann Book Club is Revolutionary Love by Michael Lerner, a political manifesto to heal and transform the world. This is from the introduction. We Earthlings need to build a fundamental change of consciousness into ourselves and in every part of our national and global society in order to achieve the economic and political changes necessary to prevent the destruction of the life support system of Earth, in order to end global and domestic poverty and wealth inequality, to defeat racism, sexism, homophobia, and other forms of xenophobia, to protect human rights, to achieve social, economic, and environmental justice, and to achieve lasting global peace. This new consciousness is possible and can emerge through embracing revolutionary love, the struggle for a caring society, and a new bottom line in all our economic, political, legal, educational, and cultural institutions. This manifesto is written to show you how this can happen and how you can help make it possible. Liberal and progressive movements need to move beyond a focus on economic entitlements and political rights to embrace a new discourse of love, kindness, generosity, and awe. These are not some new agey smile and be nice formula or let's get into self-transformation before we change society kind of thinking. I'm calling for both our American and global societies to embrace a new bottom line so that every economic, political, societal, and cultural institution is considered efficient, rational, and/or productive, not according to the old bottom line of how much these institutions maximize money, power, or ego, but rather how much they maximize love and generosity, kindness and forgiveness, ethical and environmentally sustainable behavior, social and economic justice. This new bottom line seeks to enhance our capacity to transcend a narrow utilitarian or instrumental way of viewing human beings and nature, so that we respond to other people as embodiments of the sacred, instead of thinking of them primarily in terms of how much they can serve our interests. And also so that we can respond to nature not solely as a resource for human needs, but rather through awe, wonder, and radical amazement at the beauty and grandeur of this universe. I call this new consciousness revolutionary love, and its goal is to create the caring society, caring for each other and caring for the earth. The vehicle to create this new consciousness we will call the Love and Justice Movement, and eventually the Love and Justice Party. The revolutionary possibility of love is the kind of love that breaks through those distortions of consciousness that make it difficult to implement a national environmental policy or to end the many forms of oppression that permeate our world. To really embrace revolutionary love requires us to develop a strategy way beyond anything currently being given serious attention in the media, the political parties, and even many of the social change movements. And it requires us to move beyond what seems realistic in terms of the contemporary frame of discourse. Yet there is no alternative if we're to solve the environmental crisis and prevent our society in the coming decades from moving further and further into reactionary nationalism and repression of our own humanity. We need a global mobilization of billions of people to solve the problem, and this manifesto outlines the first steps to making possible such a mobilization. To understand the urgency, let's consider our current environmental crisis. In 1992, thousands of scientists issued a collective statement warning of the impending dangers to the life support system of planet Earth. 25 years later, in December 2017, 15,364 scientists from 184 countries signed a new statement that reads, in part, "Since 1992, with the exception of stabilizing the stratospheric ozone layer, humanity has failed to make sufficient progress in generally solving these unforeseen environmental changes, and alarmingly, most of them are getting far worse. Especially troubling is the current trajectory of potentially catastrophic climate change due to rising greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels and agricultural production, particularly from farming ruminants for meat consumption. Moreover, we have unleashed a mass extinction event, the sixth in roughly 540 million years, wherein many current life forms could be annihilated or at least committed to extinction by the end of this century. Humanity is now being given a second notice. We are jeopardizing our future by not reining in our intense but geologically and demographically uneven material consumption, and by not perceiving continued rapid population growth as a planetary driver behind many ecological and even societal threats. By failing to adequately limit population growth, reassess the role of an economy rooted in growth, reduce greenhouse gases, incentivize renewable energy, protect habitat, restore ecosystems, curb pollution, halt defaunation, and constrain invasive alien species, humanity is not taking the urgent steps needed to safeguard our imperiled biosphere." End of quote from the scientists. And in October, well, it continues. The book is Revolutionary Love by Rabbi Michael Lerner.
Thank you so much.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Well, happy Thursday. Thom Hartmann here with you. Greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. We've got a lot coming up on the program today. Professor Richard Wolff will be with us in our second hour. We're going to get into this whole question of the history. Labor Day weekend is coming up. The history of the relationship between labor and capital from the founding of the Republic to today. In our third hour, Alexander Zaitchik is going to be with us. He's the author of The Gilded Rage, a wild ride through Donald Trump's America. And he's got a new piece out for the New Republic about Big Pharma, COVID-19, and vaccine and price gouging. So that third hour is going to be very, very interesting. Well, I think the whole program today is going to be very interesting. But I want to start out by talking about, Donald Trump yesterday basically calling on his followers to commit a felony. There's a woman in Texas who's serving 5 years in jail, not for voting twice, but just for voting while she was a felon. She wasn't allowed to vote, by the laws of Texas. She didn't realize that, but hey, she's black, so she's in jail. And Trump was encouraging people to violate the same kinds of laws. These, vote in ways you're not supposed to vote laws, and he was doing it in North Carolina, where it is a felony to vote twice. Exactly the way he described. And it is a felony to encourage another person to commit a felony. So here you've got the President of the United States committing a felony. He did it twice, actually. Committing a felony right in front of everybody. Then the Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer of the country, is asked about it. And he's like, well, I don't know if it's illegal or not. As if to say, well, I don't care if it's illegal or not. So what's going on here? Well, what's happening is that Trump is a loser. He's been a loser his entire life. He stole $400 million from his daddy's estate and pissed it away. His father had to come into his casino with $1 million in cash and buy chips to help keep Donald afloat. He's such an incompetent businessman, he can't make money on a casino. Please tell me who else, any casino owner in history who failed running a casino. Really? He failed running an airline. He failed running a steak company. He failed running a vodka company. His real estate empire only exists because Deutsche Bank was willing to loan him $2 billion, which he's still living on. He screwed his investors. People put hundreds of millions of dollars into his casinos, and they lost everything. Trump paid himself. This guy's a loser. The only thing he's ever been successful at in his life is pretending to be somebody other than who he is on the Celebrity Apprentice show. That's it. And he knows that he's going to lose. He knows he's going to lose this election, so he's trying to burn down the system within which he's going to lose so that he can say, oh, well, you can't trust that system, right? You can't trust those votes because people were voting twice. North Carolina, it looks, the polls show that I might be losing in North Carolina. We're going to take it right off the table. Or maybe it's part of a plan to get 2 certifications out of the state for the Electoral College so that he can throw, because, in particular, it's the more or less purple states, the states that, where Biden's actually ahead right now. Those are the states that Donald Trump needs to refuse to certify the election. If he's going to do a 12th Amendment thing, throw it into the House of Representatives and have the individual states decide who's president, which of course would make it Donald Trump. But he's trying to burn down our election system. He's trying to burn down our post office. Now, truth be told, this is part of a larger 2-year plan that was implemented before Louis DeJoy came along that has already removed over 600 of these multi-million-dollar machines that can sort millions of pieces of mail a day. And they're not just like removed and held in some warehouse for scrap or something. They're literally cut into pieces and thrown into dumpsters. Because this was part of a plan to privatize the post office, break the service so badly that people will be yelling and screaming and saying, oh my God, the post office doesn't work anymore. Somebody please put FedEx in charge of it. But, in its current moment, he's using it to make it harder for people to vote. He's empowering Republican governors to do what Brian Kemp did, with the election in Georgia. Stacey Abrams was way ahead in the polls, things like that. So, hey, throw 500,000 people off the voting rolls. Greg Palast, his investigative fund, just handed off to the ACLU the names of over 200,000 voters in Georgia who are still where they were before, who Brian Kemp purged from the voting list. Keep in mind, Brian Kemp won that election by 50,000 votes. Stacey Abrams' organization had, or one affiliated with her, had signed up before that election 51,000 African-American voters, and Brian Kemp said, oh, we don't have the manpower to put them on the list. So those people won't be able to vote in the 2018 election. Sorry. And then on top of that, he pulls another 200,000 people off the voting rolls, and he wins by 50,000 votes. This is the only way Republicans can win. Brian Kemp knows it. Chris Kobach knows it. Rick Snyder knew it. Rick Scott down in Florida knew it. Ron DeSantis knew it. The only way Republicans can win in America, well, there's 2 ways. Number one, be in a very small, very rural state where everybody watches Fox News. And that you've got that. Or cheat. And they're cheating. The vaccine. He's saying, oh, they just notified all the states and some of the territories as well to get ready, because on November 1st, you're going to be distributing vaccines. Well, the two leading vaccine candidates right now, coming out of the United States, both require the vaccine to be not just refrigerated, but kept 80 degrees below zero. Now, things may change. But how are you going to get that out? Tell me that again. Plus, you go back to Jerry Ford's vaccine effort in I think it was 76. I forget the year, but whatever the year was. And, people got Epstein. No, it wasn't Epstein-Barr. It was whatever it was, something Barr. But they got paralyzed. And you had a bunch of people who died because the vaccine hadn't run through phase 3 trials. So, what if he's just like super lying to us about the vaccine? I think that's the most likely thing. Everybody's going to think there's a vaccine. And then the day after the election, it's going to be, oh, well, I guess we're going to have to wait until January because we really need to do these trials. Are we going to discover, keep in mind, November 3rd, are we going to discover on November 4th that there was no there? He's trying to pull funding for cities across America that have Democratic mayors, which is the majority of cities. It's just mind-boggling, It's like, try to hurt your political enemies. This is not something a president of the United States has ever done, to the best of my knowledge, which is use the levers of government, use the powers that you have as president to hurt your political enemies and help your political friends. And where is secret police going to go next? They were here in Portland. Apparently they're snatching people off the roads in unmarked vans again. Other Democratic cities, polling stations. How many of his biker buddies are still alive after the Sturgis rally, and they're going to be showing up at the polls? They say they've got 50,000 of these folks ready to intimidate, black and brown people at the polls.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
But I think the bottom line is what all this adds up to is that Trump is a loser, and he is losing. Unless he cheats. And welcome back. Glenn in, there we go. Glenn in Kalama, Washington. Hey, Glenn, what's up?
Good morning. It's Kalama. I want to ask you about the central tabulation server. I think is located in Ohio, where all the states download their election results. As I understand it, in elections past, they've actually caught people trying to flip the vote by 1 or 2% but actually they got caught. How much do you know? Are you confident that we have actual government people watching that, or do we have to rely on anonymous?
We don't really know right now, Glenn. Sadly, in the 2004 election that Ken Blackwell oversaw as Secretary of State of Ohio, the Republican Party at that point in time, there was a fellow out of Kentucky or Tennessee, I believe it was Kentucky, who was running a server and internet operation for George W. Bush, who was then the sitting president. And they had an internet domain, georgewbush.com, and a few other things, 43 or whatever it was, .com. And that guy who ran that domain provided the backup service for Ken Blackwell's count in the state of Ohio. And that evening, I think it was 11:15 that evening, election night in 2004, sure enough, the entire Ohio election system, or the main tabulators, did go down. They went brown. And suddenly Ohio stopped reporting the results. And so then the state of Ohio went to this private server in Kentucky and said, give us our totals, because this is supposed to be a mirror server. That server in Kentucky gave them those totals, and they said, aha, look at this. John Kerry lost, George W. Bush won. That's what happened in Ohio. And there's been just endless conspiracy theories spun around this, many of which I think have a lot of credibility. The guy who ran that service died in a plane crash shortly thereafter, a small plane crash where he was the pilot. And it seems to have some suspicious circumstances. He was increasingly in financial and legal troubles. I mean, it was a mess. And you would think, on top of that, we had seen all kinds of voting irregularities in Florida 4 years earlier that are well documented by people like Greg Palast and Black Box Voting, Beverly, what's her last name? And this is straightforward stuff. And it's happening, and it's happening in the states that are run by Republicans because there's no federal law to prevent it. And that's the crime, Glenn. I mean, we really need to say that there's an affirmative right to vote. And that right to vote would prevent any state from messing with your federal right. But although the Constitution says you have a right to vote in several places, the Supreme Court has said, and they said it in 2000 in Bush v. Gore, you actually don't have a right to vote. So here we are. It's a mess. But Glenn, Ohio is not serving as a election central for the whole country. In fact, that's part of the problem, is that there is no election central, so there is no backup system that can be audited. There is no way, in many states, there is no way after the election to even go back and make sure that the people who said they voted. I mean, it's just, in the red states. In the blue states, they're all quite transparent. The Hartmann Report is a free daily podcast 7 days a week, and you can find our entire 3-hour podcast over at thomhartmann.com. In my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream, I'll be taking you from the birth of America as a revolt against monopoly, remember the Boston Tea Party, to the largely successful efforts of both Presidents Theodore and Franklin Roosevelt and other like-minded leaders to constrain corporations' monopolistic urges, to the massive changes in the rules of business starting during the Reagan Revolution that have brought us into the cancer stage of capitalism. In the foreword by Ralph Nader, he says, "This is the most important dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation." End quote. It's the fourth in my Hidden History series, available where all fine books are sold. And don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. Democracy starts with you. Tag, you're it. And welcome back. So, as I mentioned earlier, our president committed a felony yesterday right out in the open, encouraging Republican voters in North Carolina to vote twice. And that's a felony, and encouraging people to commit a felony is a felony. Typically he commits his crimes in somewhat less visible fashions, but this is a man clearly comfortable with committing crimes. Trump has spent much of his life committing crimes. He committed a massive tax fraud when he and his brother Robert stole their father's estate. He violated campaign finance laws by paying off the women he was having sex with. He tried to threaten and then bribe foreign officials, specifically in Ukraine, to get election help. He has thousands of Americans American small businesses who claim that he broke contracts, stole from them, and otherwise behaved like a criminal. He was even busted by the feds for being a racist, refusing to rent properties to African Americans. E. Jean Carroll and dozens of other women have accused him of rape and other forms of sexual assault. Excuse me. This guy was a mobster when he went into the White House. He is still a mobster. He has no respect for the rule of law, and he hangs out with international criminals constantly. The United States has never before, to the best of my knowledge, had an actual criminal in the White House. And That's a problem. We don't know how to deal with a criminal in the White House. And not only is Donald Trump a criminal, but he's also a liar. He's lied over 20,000 times just while he was president. On an average day, he tells about 16 lies. He lied to become president, and now he's lying and committing crimes to get reelected president. You know, the immune system of our democratic republic, when it comes to having a criminal president, I suppose you could say Richard Nixon was a criminal president, and that the immune system worked with him, is impeachment. But Mitch McConnell is also a criminal. I mean, at least the Republicans during the Nixon era had some integrity in the Senate. Their first loyalty was to country, not to Richard Nixon. Not true of Mitch McConnell. Not true of every Republican in the Senate except Mitt Romney. Trump conspires with foreign oligarchs to influence elections. He covers up evidence of crime and foreign collusion. And he's got Mitch McConnell helping him cover that up. Mitch McConnell is also conspiring with foreign oligarchs to influence his election in Kentucky. Mitch McConnell and his wife, Elaine Chao, have been engaged in shady financial dealings for decades. And at this moment, the only solution for these crimes, given that the Republicans would not remove him from office, the Republicans in the Senate, is Attorney General Bill Barr, and he's willing to continue the cover-up for Trump's crimes. In fact, he's willing to participate in them. Yesterday on national television, he lied, saying that he didn't know that double voting was a felony, and that he didn't know that prescribing a felony, recommending a felony, encouraging a felony, inciting a felony was a felony. Right. And as a result of this, the only thing we're left with is the election. This is the only thing that might remove Trump from office. And that's why he's trying to burn down every structure that has anything to do with the election. Whether it's polling places, whether it's vote by mail, whether it's the post office itself, whatever it may be, scaring people, spreading the coronavirus, increasing the rate of spread of the coronavirus by having the CDC tell people, oh, if you've been exposed, but you're not sick, you can't get tested. You don't need to get tested. We're going to set up guidelines so your insurance company won't pay for you to get tested. Why? Because he wants more people sick. Why does he want more people sick? Because they'll be afraid to go to the polls. At least the Democrats will be afraid. This is his theory. And now we're looking at the very real possibility that after November 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th or whenever the final counts come in, that our long national nightmare, to paraphrase Jerry Ford, will not be over until January 20th at noon. And 1 minute after that, we have a hell of a lot of work to do. We have to heal our democracy. We have to suck out the poison that Trump has injected into our republic. And given how deeply Donald Trump has embedded his criminal co-conspirators, his lobbyist buddies, his corrupt politician buddies, and how the elected Republicans in both the House and the Senate have just completely buried themselves up Trump's backside, it's going to be a hell of a big job. Cleaning out this mess, extracting all this stuff. I don't think it's going to be easy at all. And meanwhile, I just got an email from FreedomWorks. This is, the Koch brothers kind of helped start this thing, demanding that Barney call his member of Congress and demand that they give America a pay raise by cutting the payroll tax. Yes, we need to end the payroll tax so that you will get an increase in your tax or a decrease in your taxes. You'll get a tax break. Right? You know what happens in 2.5, 3 years if we cut the payroll tax to zero. Social Security Trust Fund goes broke. Always been about, or a big
You're
chunk
listening
of it
to the Thom
for the
Hartmann
Republican donor
Program. Call
class.
202-808-9925.
The banksters among us. So can America be repaired, do you think? What's it going to take? We'll be back with your calls after this. Well, happy Thursday. It is the first day of the fall pledge drive on Free Speech TV. And a fine day it is, and a fine pledge drive. I realize this is going to be a tough haul. We're going to run this for a couple weeks because we're competing with every politician on earth, it seems, for contributions. And that, in many ways, makes this, frankly, more difficult, but also more important. This is a critical, crucial time for our democracy. And Free Speech TV is a critical, frankly, in my humble opinion, a critical information vehicle for our democracy to help people understand what's really going on. Very often big corporate media misses much of the story. Sometimes they don't even get the story. And then you've got, of course, hardcore right-wing media like Fox News and right-wing hate radio that purposely distorts the story. So here we are, one of the few places where you're actually going to get a straight story. And frankly, I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm quite sure that, Sonali or Randy Rhodes or Amy Goodman or David Pakman or any of the fine folks you see here on Free Speech, Stephanie Miller, any of them would tell you, if you can identify something that I've said that is not true, tell me about it and I'll correct myself on the air. You will not hear that from anybody on Fox News. You will never hear that from a right-winger, particularly on right-wing hate radio. You will not hear that over, One American News. I mean, you're just not going to hear that in the right-wingosphere. And I think maybe that's what makes progressives constitutionally different from conservatives, is that conservatives believe that the ends justify the means. If you've got to cheat to win an election, that's okay because winning an election is important. Progressives believe that the ends and the means are part of the same thing. That the way we win an election, for example, is going to be a reflection of who we are and how we're going to govern. What our values and ideals are. And, the same thing with winning an argument, frankly. I can't tell you how many times I've been in debates with right-wingers, whether it was Mike Pence or whether it was, one of the Salem guys or other people, and, they'll just pull something out of their backside that is completely, it's a Donald Trump kind of lie. I mean, just a convenient thing to say. You will not hear that happen on Free Speech TV, generally speaking, and when it does, if you point it out, it will get fixed. And that's why Free Speech TV is so vital. Free Speech TV is not just a television network, it's an ethic. It's a standard, it's a way of understanding governance and what our nation is about and who we are and why we're here. And that's why it's so important that you call now 877-378-8669 and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV out. Mike from San Francisco, longtime supporter, has made a generous donation to cover the hard costs of running the pledge drive. So, the costs associated with the pledge drive, people to answer the phone, stuff like that. Mike's covering all that. So all of your contribution, 100% of it is going straight to Free Speech TV. That's a big deal. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and Mike is essentially, matching your contribution. Another longtime supporter, Andrew from San Diego, has a challenge for all of us. Our goal is to hit $240,000 by September 27, and he says if we hit our goal, he's going to kick in an additional 10 grand. So we need your calls, we need your help. Here are the premiums. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Fight for Democracy sticker, or a set of 3 stainless steel straws. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV webcam cover, the tote bag that says change never happens from the top down, paraphrasing the old Margaret Mead quote, or the postcard pack, Fight for Democracy postcards. There's 5 of them. With a $75 gift, the Thom Hartmann Program white ceramic mug, or the Free Speech TV black hat. With a $100 gift, there's a face mask. What can we grow from crisis? You get 2 of them, actually, for $100. With a $120 gift, you get your choice of a Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Greg Palast's new book, How Trump Stole 2020, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly. Any of those, pick one with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, we will have a virtual meet and greet, one on October 14th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, one on November 18th. You're welcome to join with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with a bumper sticker, democracy sticker, change the vote, democracy postcards, and the Vanished Voters book and my Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, we've got these meet and greets, in-person meet and greets, but we haven't scheduled any for a while. We've got the coronavirus. But you can still give a $1,000 gift. Call now, please, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help, and they need it right now. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much. In the science revolution this week, is Trump burying the pandemic, and will it work? Dr. Michael Mann is here about the Greenland ice sheet losing 1 million tons a minute. He'll explain what that means to us. Dr. Michael Greger drops by, and one of the most important questions right now, what can be done to stop the spread of animal-derived diseases? And director Dan Partland is here on his new film, Unfit, The Psychology of Donald Trump. Tune into the science revolution wherever fine podcasts are available. Hey, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, I will be doing a virtual book signing with Town Hall Seattle. It's going to be great. It's an hour and a half, thereabouts. I'll be giving a whole riff about my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, how big business destroyed the American dream, and taking questions from the audience, which you can be a member of. All the information is over at thomhartmann.com or Town Hall Seattle's website, which should be fairly easy to find with the simplest of net searches. Dan in Blaine, Tennessee. Hey, Dan, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I have a deja vu problem. I'm thinking that in 2016, in the election, they had Hillary ahead by like 6 to 10 points. So a lot of people that didn't like Hillary stayed home, maybe. And I'm worried that that's going to happen again. In addition to all the other problems that you listed, I'm thinking that, maybe Trump's going to get elected because they're going to think, well, Hillary, Biden's got this. He's going to win.
I think the major focus of in particular, the Russian campaign, against Biden, but probably a much broader campaign, is to do just that, to repeat what happened in 2016 by causing Biden to be perceived as, somebody who's not going to save America, who's not going to protect this country, who's not going to do a great job. And they're questioning his intellect, they're questioning his energy, they're questioning his age, they're questioning his politics, and setting up phony progressive sites and phony progressive events and apparently hundreds of phony progressive Facebook pages and groups to basically convey that message. Oh, you don't want to vote for Joe, he's just one of them, just set this one out. Everything will be fine. And frankly, I don't think we're buying it. I just don't think we're buying it this time. Ryan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hey, Ryan, what's up?
Hey, how you doing today? I'm just calling to talk about exactly what you were just talking about. And you are correct. There are hundreds, thousands of trolls online. And I wanted to talk about, just real quick, since you got to the point of what I was going to call, I want to say something else real fast about where I think this started with Alex Jones in 2011. If you go back and watch, there's a video of Hillary Clinton speaking to Congress, I believe. I'm not sure. But she says that there's an information war going on and we're losing. She speaks on the Russian, I think she didn't say troll farms, but she said they started English channels in the United States. She also said China started English channels. And right when she put out that video, I saw that video on Alex Jones because I used to watch him when I was younger because I was younger. And anyway, he I saw that video on there, and he immediately said, yeah, Hillary, you're the one with the disinformation. You're the enemy. And then immediately started spreading conspiracy theories. And then, you've heard of all the conspiracy theories up to this very day, Sandy Hook and beyond.
Yeah.
So
the question, though, Ryan, I get all that, and we know that on the right wing side, you've got people just swallowing whole the most absurd conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Democrats drinking the blood of babies and all this kind of weird stuff.
Oh God!
Excuse me, but yeah, I'm on the edge of losing control myself here. But the question is, will the average voter? I think most progressives and most solid Democratic voters are cranked up and they're going to show up. But the question is the middle, the low information voters, the people who start paying attention to the election, next week. Right?
That was the point I'm trying to make too, is that they are being successful in getting regular people to not even watch Joe Biden at all. Like my mom will not watch any of the Democrats. She's not a voter. She's not going to vote for Trump. She's just scared because of the pandemic and all that. But she's convinced that the Democrats are evil because of all this propaganda that we've been hearing for so long. Because
and the main cesspool for this. Right, and the main cesspool for all this is Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook, and his right-wing billionaire buddies who help him run it. Ryan, I got to move along, but thank you. It's a very serious issue. Matt in Providence, Rhode Island. Hey, Matt, what's up?
Hey, Tom. So now that the Kennedy name has kind of lost its luster in Massachusetts and Ed Markey's furry predilections have been brought to light, I was wondering what you thought about a couple other candidates in Massachusetts. There's Sellers and Geary. I know Geary is widely looked at as a Law and Order candidate. A lot of people say he has no vision, but he's one of those guys who always says family comes first.
Matt, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to move along here because I don't know anything about Massachusetts politics. I don't follow Massachusetts politics, and I don't recognize those names. My apologies. But I'd call into a local, Boston radio show if you wanted that granular a conversation. Nancy in Elkhart, Indiana. Hey, Nancy, what's up?
Do you happen to know, or do you have an opinion about the Democrats who are planning on waiting till November 3rd to do their voting, and yet we're hearing about there's not enough volunteers or not enough people to work at the station, to work there? How will those people know if their voting places are actually going to have enough, or if they might close their voting place?
Well, this is why it's important not to wait until November 3rd to flush the, we have to vote as early as possible.
And I don't hear enough people, though. I don't hear enough volunteers, I guess, telling these people that. I'm trying, So that's so you're trying to tell them that too.
I'm saying it. Mark Pocan said it maybe 20 times yesterday. Everybody I know is saying, vote early. And then you got Trump saying, vote early and vote often, which is like, whoa. But yes, Nancy, thank you for the call. Susan in Snellville, Georgia. Hey, Susan, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I just wanted to call to inform parents that my 8th grader's teacher yesterday online, he was spewing QAnon conspiracy theories that have been talked about on the news the last couple of days, saying that the only COVID deaths are really the 6% that died of only COVID. So I reported it to the principal, and she had no idea of what QAnon was even. She didn't even know how to spell it. So I told her, they live among us. These are un-American, unpatriotic people that are believing Russian propaganda. So she said that she was going to talk to the teacher again, but the teacher tried to make up excuses.
Yeah. That's...
he just said he was using CDC data.
Yeah, right. Well, they were. I mean, the CDC was basically publishing that list of death certificates. It struck me as you were telling this story, Susan, that I wonder if your kid has the ability to record the teacher's lessons so that you could have actual video documentary evidence of this.
Yeah, the principal has it. Pull the tape.
Susan, your phone is breaking up really badly. I can't hear you. Can you move to a different place, or you
Is
did
it
something
better?
that killed it? Yeah,
Uh-oh.
try for it.
Okay. So she said that she had the recording of the Zoom meeting, and that she went through it, and she was trying to make excuses for the teacher. But once I was able to explain the whole QAnon theory and how they're trying to help Trump look better on the COVID cases, she said she would re-look into it and then readdress the teacher. But I just wanted people to know, like, what's going on in your kid's school, and that they live among us, and they're going to be poisoning your kid's brain, here and there, just like a cult.
Yeah, it is. This is insidious. Susan, thank you. Thanks for the heads up on that. Kathy in Pittsburgh. Hey, Kathy, what's up?
Hey, I just wanted to say that I'm really displeased with this payroll tax holiday. I'm a federal employee, and I don't have a right to opt out. Every other employer and employee has a right to opt out. Donald Trump will not allow federal employees to opt out. So I don't have a choice. They're automatically going to take that money out of my pay. Put the money in my pay, not deduct it. And then I have to pay it back next year. And if we don't have
After
it paid back
election.
by May 1st of next year, we get penalties and interest on it.
That's right.
I can't believe people don't understand what this is. And I feel it's an attempt to eliminate Social Security. I contacted both my U.S. senators. I wrote to my HR department, and they pretty much said, that's too bad. You don't have a choice. I just can't.
Yeah, so for people who don't know
people...
what you're talking about, Kathy, forgive the interruption, but we just have 25 seconds. For people who don't know what Kathy's talking about, Donald Trump, one of his executive orders was stop collecting Social Security and Medicare taxes from people's paychecks, FICA taxes, which has two benefits. Number one, everybody thinks that they're getting a raise in their paycheck, but it wasn't stop taxing them. It was, I tax them at the end of the year after the election. So at the end of the year, you're going to owe that whole amount, number one.
Yes, you will. And it could be substantial. People really need to pay attention to it. So if they have an employer that'll let them opt out, I suggest they opt out.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com
now we're
for
back.
audio and video archives.
We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Let's see here. Dennis in Aptos, California. Hey, Dennis, what's up?
Yeah, great show you're having. I don't think we should even, or you should, or whoever else has a radio show should even refer to the president as the president, because he's acting like a dictator. In fact, I would say he's de facto the right-wing fascist dictator of America right now. Only dictators rig elections, and he's trying to rig the election. Only dictators project and accuse other people of what they do and what they are. He's a liar, he's a crook, and so he's going to accuse Biden of being that. We have to wake up. I've been a Democrat since, I don't know when, mid-'70s when I started to vote. And I have voted in every election. I've never voted for a Republican. The only Republican I ever would have voted for was Pete McCloskey. I don't know if you recognize the name. He
I remember Pete.
Palo Alto.
He was a Republican. Yeah, from California.
A Republican. I told him that one day because I met him in downtown Santa Cruz. This was about 20 years ago when he already was.
Didn't he become governor for a while?
No. He did run as a Democrat for a congressional seat. I think it was in the East Bay, but he didn't win. And that was maybe about 10 or 15 years ago. And I don't even know if he's still alive, but he was actually already quite elderly when he did that. But he ran as a Democrat, so he stopped being a Republican.
Yeah. He had a pretty good reputation, too, back in the day as one of those kind of Rockefeller Republicans, the moderate Republicans. who have, just all been purged and run right out of their party. Excellent point, Dennis. Dennis, thanks for the call and for sharing your story with us. Teresa in Kingston, Washington. Hey, Teresa, what's up?
Hi, Tom. What I'm calling about today is just to get the message out. We live in all vote by mail state, and people who are wanting to vote by mail, if they want to vote early, is they can call up their election office, their county election office, and see when they can pick up their ballot. And they normally will give you a date. Ours is today, and fill it out and then take it back. Or we have drop boxes. You can put them in those, but don't use the mail.
What's the day that Washington State drops their ballots in the mail? Is that today that they mail them out to people?
It's our Secretary of State is sending them out 3 weeks early, which is in October. So, that's just too late.
3 weeks is tight.
You can go to your election office, and people, I'm sure they can call their election office across the country and find out, okay, when can I pick up my ballot? Can I pick up my absentee ballot? And have them go and pick it up. And, it's going to take some legwork, but if you want your ballot to count, do it.
Are you sure you can do that? Because it seems like they'd have to jump through all kinds of hoops to find your individual ballot. Huh.
No. You can, and you can drop it. You can drop it in. We have ballot drop boxes. So after you fill it out,
I get that. Yeah, we have them here too. So after you've done that, Teresa, let us know how it worked out. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
You're going to do that. Okay. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm curious. We'll be right back with more of your calls and the news of the day in just a moment. Stick around. The Hidden History of Monopoly tells how Robert Bork, that guy from the Reagan era, transformed corporate America and destroyed the American dream. American dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Corton, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, "This is the most important, dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation," end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these two great virtual book signings. Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag you're it. And we'll welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Liz in Los Angeles. Hey, Liz, what's on your mind today?
Yesterday I was watching either CNN or MSNBC, because I flip the stations a lot. And they had a doctor on who was talking about Alzheimer's and Trump. And he said he's exhibiting a lot of the signs. Well, I thought that a couple of years ago. Remember when he did one of his talks and they had a clip and he was saying, "United Shishish"? That's a sure sign of, I unfortunately had to deal with somebody who had it, and that's sure.
That's more of a sign of microstrokes, isn't it?
I don't know, but it certainly is a sign of Alzheimer's. So
yeah, I think I don't know about Alzheimer's, but dementia, yes, and one of the more common causes I understand of dementia can be a quote series of microstrokes, which is what Trump tweeted day before yesterday. "I didn't have a series of microstrokes," when nobody was saying that he'd had a series of microstrokes. People were wondering why he was dragging his leg and why he went to Walter Reed. So it's all very, very weird. But Liz, the problem is that the only mechanism we have, there's two mechanisms for removing the president. The first is impeachment, and we know how that went. And the second is the 25th Amendment, which requires Mike Pence to publicly say Donald Trump isn't competent to be president, and then requires the majority of his cabinet to back him up on that. And then that's only a temporary process. The president can appeal it. So I'm not holding my breath for it, but your point is well taken. Liz, thanks for the call. Jerry in San Francisco. Hey, Jerry, what's up?
Hi, Tom. A while ago, you were talking about we have a lot of work to do if we're lucky enough that Biden gets elected. I was wondering if you could go a little deeper in that and kind of flesh that out a little bit.
Yeah, I think we need to reevaluate the Patriot Act and all of the other emergency powers that the president has been given over the years. There were some around Vietnam. There were some around World War II. And most of them, frankly, came after 9/11. So that needs to be dialed back. Number two, we need to find out what the hell is going on with these PEDs, these presidential emergency declarations, or whatever the PEAD stands for. ABC News did an 8-minute segment on this, or maybe it was an 11-minute segment on this that I tweeted out earlier this morning or late last night. And I encourage you to hit my Twitter feed and watch that. It is shocking. Basically, you've got a number of people actually talking about how basically Donald Trump has the power under these PEDs, which have never even been seen by any member of Congress. But he has claimed the power under these things to suspend the Constitution, to suspend habeas corpus, and to put the United States under martial law. And, it's just astonishing. I mean, these things go back to the Eisenhower administration, and they were put into place just in case that we got into a nuclear exchange with Russia and 90% of America is a smoldering ruin. What do you do? Wow. That's why they were there. But Trump was bragging about this 3 weeks ago. He said, I've got powers that you don't even know about.
Yeah, I remember.
And he's right. Yeah, and then you got John Yoo, and he was interviewed in this ABC segment. You got John Yoo, who flies out to Washington, D.C. and sits Donald Trump down and tells him about the PEDs, says you've got all these magical secret powers, and then also tells him how he can use executive orders. For example, the DACA program that Trump tried to get rid of, and the court stopped him because he didn't do it right. He could have easily gotten rid of that DACA program, though, because it was an executive order by Barack Obama. A president can undo previous president's executive orders, but Congress has a real hell of a time, particularly a divided Congress, undoing presidential orders. And so basically what John Yoo was telling Trump was, there's 16 ways to Sunday that you can do this. You can do anything you want, whether it's building a border wall or whether it's screwing with the census or whether it's preventing black people from voting or whatever you want to do. You could figure out a way to do it using these executive orders, and no president has ever used these as aggressively as they could. And of course, there's the secret stuff like, that John Yoo is helping. Keep in mind, John Yoo was the guy who authored the torture memos along with Jay Bybee. Right. He's on the Ninth Circuit now. John Yoo's teaching law at Berkeley. And these guys were war criminals, Jay Bybee and John Yoo. And he was the one who wrote the memos telling George W. Bush and Dick Cheney that they could violate not just the U.S. Constitution, but the UN Charter. This is when we started pulling ourselves out of the International Criminal Court. And yesterday now, Trump is going after people who work for the criminal court. They can't, do business denominated in dollars and stuff like that. I mean, he's sanctioning people in Holland who work at The Hague on the International Criminal Court, which is insane. Well, right. Why is he doing that? Because they're looking into war crimes being committed by Trump. And, it's just, you add it all up and it's just absolutely nuts. And so, when you say, what is the work that we have to do once Trump is out of office to draw all this back in? That's my starting list. And I just finished writing a book about this, The Hidden History of Tyranny and Oligarchy, which will be out next spring. And been thinking a lot about it, Jerry. I'm telling you, I've been thinking a lot about it.
You just made the greatest plea to get people to vote that I've heard in a long time. Thanks, Tom.
Well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Yeah, good talking with you. I appreciate the call. This is serious stuff, and we've got to take it very, very seriously. We do have a lot of work to do. Up next, Richard Wolff, Professor Richard Wolff, the economist. We're going to be talking about some deep stuff here. Stick around. It's going to get real interesting.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
Happy Thursday. It is the first day of the fall pledge drive on Free Speech TV. And a fine day it is, and a fine pledge drive. I realize this is going to be a tough haul. We're going to run this for a couple weeks because we're competing with every politician on earth, it seems, for contributions. And that, in many ways, makes this, frankly, more difficult, but also more important. This is a critical, crucial time for our democracy. And Free Speech TV is a critical, frankly, in my humble opinion, a critical information vehicle for our democracy to help people understand what's really going on. Very often big corporate media misses much of the story. Sometimes they don't even get the story. And then you've got, of course, hardcore right-wing media like Fox News and right-wing hate radio that purposely distorts the story. So here we are, one of the few places where you're actually going to get a straight story. And frankly, I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm quite sure that, Sonali or Randy Rhodes or Amy Goodman or David Packman or any of the fine folks you see here on Free Speech, Stephanie Miller, any of them would tell you, if you can identify something that I've said that is not true, tell me about it and I'll correct myself on the air. You will not hear that from anybody on Fox News. You will never hear that from a right-winger, particularly on right-wing hate radio. You will not hear that over, One American News. I mean, you're just not going to hear that in the right-wingosphere. And I think maybe that's what makes progressives constitutionally different from conservatives, is that conservatives believe that the ends justify the means. If you've got to cheat to win an election, that's okay because winning an election is important. Progressives believe that the ends and the means are part of the same thing. That the way we win an election, for example, is going to be a reflection of who we are and how we're going to govern. What our values and ideals are. And, the same thing with winning an argument, frankly. I can't tell you how many times I have been in debates with right-wingers, whether it was Mike Pence or whether it was, one of the Salem guys or other people, and, they'll just pull something out of their backside that is completely, it's a Donald Trump kind of lie. I mean, just a convenient thing to say. You will not hear that happen on Free Speech TV, generally speaking, and when it does, if you point it out, it will get fixed. And that's why Free Speech TV is so vital. Free Speech TV is not just a television network, it's an ethic. It's a standard, it's a way of understanding governance and what our nation is about and who we are and why we're here. And that's why it's so important that you call now 877-378-8669 and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV out. Mike from San Francisco, longtime supporter, has made a generous donation to cover the hard costs of running the pledge drive. So, the costs associated with the pledge drive, people to answer the phone, stuff like that. Mike's covering all that. So all of your contribution, 100% of it is going straight to Free Speech TV. That's a big deal. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and Mike is essentially, matching your contribution. Another longtime supporter, Andrew from San Diego, has a challenge for all of us. Our goal is to hit $240,000 by September 27, and he says if we hit our goal, he's going to kick in an additional 10 grand. So we need your calls, we need your help. Here are the premiums. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Fight for Democracy sticker, or a set of 3 stainless steel straws. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV webcam cover, the tote bag that says "Change never happens from the top down," paraphrasing the old Margaret Mead quote, or the postcard pack, Fight for Democracy postcards. There's 5 of them. With a $75 gift, the Thom Hartmann Program white ceramic mug, or the Free Speech TV black hat. With a $100 gift, there's a face mask. What can we grow from crisis? You get 2 of them, actually, for $100. With a $120 gift, you get your choice of a Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Greg Palast's new book, How Trump Stole 2020, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly. Any of those, pick one with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, we will have a virtual meet and greet, one on October 14th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, one on November 18th. You're welcome to join with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with a bumper sticker, democracy sticker, Change the Vote, democracy postcards, and the Vanished Voters book and my Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, we've got these meet and greets, in-person meet and greets, but we haven't scheduled any for a while. We've got the coronavirus. But you can still give a $1,000 gift. Call now, please, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help, and they need it right now. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much. Is Under the Influence by Robert H. Frank.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Just a reminder, tomorrow afternoon, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, I will be at Town Hall Seattle, not physically in person. We're doing it virtually, but it's off their website. And there's a link over at thomhartmann.com. I will be doing a book reading, signing, riffing, ranting, whatever you want to call it, about my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream, with a foreword by Ralph Nader, who called it the best book on the topic written in a generation. And he has written books on the topic, so that's pretty high praise. So anyhow, that's going on tomorrow. You can check it all out at thomhartmann.com. On the line with us right now, speaking of economics, is Professor Richard Wolff, the co-founder of Democracy at Work, the author of numerous books, his most recent, Understanding Socialism, democracyatwork.info, and rdwolff with 2fs.com are his websites. You can tweet him at Prof. Wolff. And Professor Wolff, I was hoping as we head in toward Labor Day here that you could give us an overview of the nature and relationship of the relationship and the nature of that relationship between labor and capital and government and business and all these different dimensions that we call the economy from the point of view of labor from the founding of our republic till today. No small assignment here, sir.
All right. Let me try in the short time that we have. If we go back to before the Europeans came to our continent here, we had very interesting systems of economics that the Native Americans had developed. They were collective or communal in most cases, whole tribes managing to work out as a community who would do what kind of work, how the work was divided up. Then they would meet as a whole and decide through debate and discussion how to divide up the produce. Sometimes that function was given to a council of elders or chiefs and so forth and so on. But a very different economic system existed here for centuries very successfully. The Europeans arrived with a completely different economic system, namely modern capitalism by and large. And we know what they did to the Native Americans. They didn't just get rid of their economic system. They mostly got rid of them physically by slaughtering them, a kind of an early example of ethnic cleansing. The Europeans who came here set up multiple systems, small-scale individual farming, the famous New England examples, without employer-employee relationships, without capitalism. Everybody was their own employer as an individual. But that gave way pretty quickly, despite Mr. Thomas Jefferson's effort to keep it going. And we had finally the system by the end of the 18th century pretty well established, employer-employee, not in the South. In the South, we had a different system, of course, slavery, master and slave. In the North, employer-employee. Civil War ended the slavery, destroyed it, and replaced it with the same employer-employee. And that's been our basic capitalist structure ever since. A very small minority of the population have the wealth to be the employer, and the vast majority of us are employees. From around 1800 to around 1970, a remarkable story. This capitalist employer-employee system was able to raise the wages of workers every decade for 150 to 170 years. No capitalism was as successful as the American. It raised the standard of living of workers. They had to, of course, fight for this with trade unions and strikes. But they were able, because the capitalism was reasonably successful, to get at least enough of it for them to have rising wages. All of that stopped in 1970. What came together in the 1970s was the following. Three things. Number one, the export of jobs to the rest of the world. Precisely because wages had gone up in this country, capitalists decided to move production to where wages had not gone up, where they had gone down in many cases, China, India, Brazil, all of that. Number two, in the 1970s, an enormous influx of automation. The computer replaced the worker. And number three, immigrants coming into the United States offering to work for lower wages. End result, jobs disappeared, wages stopped rising. The last 50 years of our history is a time when workers are ever more productive, producing more and more for the employer, but the wages the employer gives the workers have gone nowhere. If you adjust for prices, the average real wage of an American worker today is about what it was in the late 1970s. A staggering impact on the American people because they had gotten used to the idea of rising wages, rising well-being of each generation. And so they were caught losing what they had come to assume was the American dream. They went to work and did more work than everybody else. They borrowed more money than any working class had ever had until they couldn't borrow anymore and they couldn't work anymore. And that's the crash of 2008, and we're still living in an economic system that no longer functions. Only it took us 50 years or more to come to the realization that this system is now good only for the few at the top and has finally shown its true colors, which is a system that works for the minority who are in the position of employer and not for the majority who are the positions of employees.
Wow, that was brilliant. Thank you. So it sounds like, given that the whole tale goes south, at least for the American worker in the 70s and early 80s, that and sort of coincides with the Reagan Revolution and it was the Thatcher Revolution in 78, this whole kind of neoliberal revolt, and Jimmy Carter had bought into it during the last 2 years of his presidency. Is it possible to have a capitalist system that doesn't ultimately get corrupted, that can, keep some guardrails in place and protect workers? A, and B, and we have about a minute and 3/4. And B, is it possible if we were to set up an alternative system, say a system where corporations are not owned by stockholders, but they're owned by their employees, is it possible to prevent a system like that from being similarly corrupted?
Well, I think the answers to both of them in the short is yes. I think in the 1930s we had the New Deal, which was an attempt to have the government step in and change the rules of the game, not in a fundamental way. The New Deal left the employer-employee relationship the same, but it encrusted it with all kinds of rules and regulations that made it a lot less unfriendly to the mass of people. But the lesson is, if you don't get rid of the employer-employee relationship, even when you make a victory like the New Deal, it can then be taken away from you, which is what the last 30 or 40 years have done with Reagan, Thatcher, and all the rest, right up to and including Mr. Trump. So I think the lesson is you have to do the second thing you mentioned. You really have to end the employer-employee relationship. Stop this set of systems, slavery with the master-slave, feudalism with the lord and serf, and now capitalism with the employer and the employee. Those systems end up working for the minorities who control them, and therefore we have to make the break and reorganize our production system so it's a real democratic community that organizes and works in each enterprise, makes its decisions democratically. That's the only way to break the habit that has cost us so dearly in not having made that kind of change sooner.
Remarkable stuff. Absolutely remarkable. Professor Richard Wolff, democracyatwork.info, rdwolff.com, Prof. Wolff on Twitter. Professor Wolff, thanks so much for dropping by today. It's always great talking.
My pleasure, Tom. Glad to talk with you.
Thank you very much. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. It's 15 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, not a chance.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more of the news right after this. And welcome back. Let's see who is on the line here. Ronald in Land O'Lakes, Florida. Hey, Ronald, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind is the debate that's coming up between Trump and Biden. I would like to know how we could do something to force them to do a fact check on all the questions and answers that are going to be made to each candidate.
Well, the first debate is going to be moderated by Fox News, so I wouldn't hold my breath. I mean, it's going to be Chris Wallace, you know. The second debate is the C-SPAN guy, and he does a pretty good job of basically just looking confused. The third debate, I believe, is Kristen Welker, who is just a crackerjack reporter with NBC News. She's really good. She's really smart, really insightful, doesn't brook BS. So the third debate, I think, has the best chance of something like that going on. But basically, Ronald, we don't have any power over this. This is something that has been organized by the two parties and a private corporation that took over the debates in 1988. And that private corporation is funded by the two parties in part, and they put these things on. Prior to 88, it used to be the League of Women Voters. And the debate formats were fairly long. You had, 5 minutes to make a presentation. You had 5 minutes to rebut it. Those kinds of things. Go back and watch the Nixon-Kennedy debates. They were, for me, absolutely fascinating, very informative, but apparently not as entertaining as the media wants today. And in 88, when George Herbert Walker Bush wanted to change the rules of the debate in a way that would favor basically Republicans who might lie, specifically George Herbert Walker Bush, and make it harder for either person to challenge the other directly, the League of Women Voters at that point said, "You are trying to rig these debates, and we will have nothing to do with this. We resign." And that's when this private corporation kicked in. So that's where it's at. That's how it came about, Ronald. And, frankly, I am not hopeful that any wonderful stuff is going to come out of this. But, we'll see. We'll see. Suzanne in Rocheron, Texas. Am I saying that right, Suzanne?
Yes, sir. I really do appreciate your show, and I really do love your format. I saw something on MSNBC last night where Russia was trying to engage us in Syria, and that stupid president does not want to do a daggum thing. We've got to stop him, plain and simple. I'm scared.
Yeah, this started.
I'm very scared.
Yeah,
I can't take no more.
Suzanne, no need to be scared. We can be concerned, and we can take that energy and channel it into doing things and saying things and waking people up. But scared just paralyzes. This, Franklin Roosevelt in 1933, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, paralyzing fear. Don't want to go there.
How do we stop him?
I agree.
He's crazy.
Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. He's mentally ill, and he's a dangerous man. And Suzanne, thank you. And yes, the Russians have attacked our troops in Syria. The Russian bombers have been, pushing our planes around. I think it's probably a good thing that hasn't escalated into World War III. But China's doing it too. And, we'll see how this plays out and what a new administration might bring. But Donald Trump is incompetent at every level, and that's scary. We'll be right back. You can help America return to democracy by telling friends and family how to listen to this and other great progressive programs. Tag You're It. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Corton, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, "This is the most important, dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation," end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these two great virtual book signings. Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag You're It. Oh, welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Andrea in Reno, Nevada. Hey, Andrea, what's on your mind today?
You left out a very major detail on the payroll tax cut proposal that Trump wants to make permanent. By executive order alone, Congress won't be able to do anything about it. If Come Over Caligula makes this permanent on January 1st, 2021, the entire disability fund will be completely depleted by June 2021.
No, by June 2023.
No, June 2021, 6 months. And I would urge you and anybody who's interested in disability and their rights, and if you want
the
fight,
disability
get
fund. I'm sorry, I was thinking the entire Social Security Trust Fund. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
yes, Andrew,
and if you and if you're fighting, and you want to make sure that Biden gets in, please go to CNN.com, the opinion section written by President/Attorney Nancy Altman of Social Security Works, and read her article for full chilling details.
Yeah, she's going to be on our show Tuesday, by the way, of next week. So spot on, Andrea. You are absolutely on top of it, and thank you so much for pointing that out to everybody. And this is one of those moments when it's a good idea to call your member of Congress, either call their local office or call their federal office, their D.C. office at 202-224-3121, and say, stop Trump from killing the Social Security tax and using that to kill Social Security. Mary in Fort Worth, Texas. Hey, Mary, what's up?
Well, thank you so much for hearing me. I'm a senior citizen. Most of my friends are senior citizens, and they are, like a lot of Texans, Trump worshipers. But they are also, their livelihood depends on Social Security and Medicare. They don't seem to realize that Trump has said he's going to end the payroll deduction, which will end Social Security. They don't seem to realize that the Republican Party has always wanted to end the New Deal, which is responsible for so many of the ending hunger, ending homelessness, ending and caring for the sick, and giving us quality public education. The Democratic Party campaign is not stressing those things. People understand that. They understand their livelihoods. And it is important that this be the focus of the campaign, I think.
I agree. And what's shocking to me, Mary, frankly, is that the news media is not talking about this every day. You know, Donald Trump has promised to end Social Security by 2023. The disability fund, as our earlier caller mentioned, will vanish in the middle of next year. The entire trust fund for people who are, over 65 and retired, that will end in 2023, the third year of a Trump presidency, if he has that opportunity. And this is why it's important, number one, to raise hell with your elected officials. Number two, to get everybody you know registered to vote and make sure that they're actually going to do it, and double check your own voter registration. And number three, to lean on the media and tell everybody that you know that Trump is actually intentionally, right now, step by step, clearing the way to destroy Social Security. He's doing it enthusiastically. He's doing it proudly. One of my friends, I persuaded to watch a video of Trump saying he's going to end the payroll deduction. That surprised her. Yeah. There you go. Good on you, Mary. Good on you. Thank you very much. Rudy in Chicago. Hey, Rudy, what's up?
Hi. First, thank you for your show. I wanted to make a quick comment, and I'll listen to your answer after I hang up. And that is where President Trump accused, and to me he accused Biden of being on drugs and to take a drug test. Now, Biden has been, as far as I know, he's been quiet about it. But I would think that Biden should come back and say, well, I think you're cheating on your taxes and you're a criminal. So if you show your taxes, I'll take the drug test, and just make it a challenge.
Yeah, I wouldn't give Trump anything, frankly, but I get what you're saying, Rudy. Here, this is from the Gateway Pundit today, which is one of the larger right-wing sites. Started out as sort of a political economic commentary site and has just turned into total Trump humpers. And here's what they wrote. The headline is Biden jacked up on amphetamines? And they wrote, something's going on with Joe Biden. We can all see it. President Trump sees it too, which is why he's calling for drug tests before the 2020 presidential debate. One retired pharma professional said, quote, amphetamines and now substituted amphetamines were prescribed for those with dementia beginning in the 1950s because they produced enhanced cognition and improved cognitive performance, end quote. See, Trump knows all about this. I mean, as we know from the people who worked on the Apprentice shows and were, in his circle, He was doing cocaine and amphetamines back in the 80s and the 90s, and according to some, in the early 2000s, and may well still be doing it. It's been a while since I've heard him snorting. I'm wondering if his snorting crushed up Adderall is what gave him that series of mini strokes that got him to Walter Reed, because that's one of the more common side effects among older people when they abuse these really, really strong stimulants like cocaine and methamphetamine. So Trump is doing this, apparently, certainly has a history of doing it. And so, of course, he would accuse Joe Biden of doing it. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And I wouldn't give Trump anything on this regard. It's hitting the bottom of the hour here, 28 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with more of your calls and the news of the day right after this. Well, happy Thursday. It is the first day of the fall pledge drive on Free Speech TV. And a fine day it is, and a fine pledge drive. I realize this is going to be a tough haul. We're going to run this for a couple weeks because we're competing with every politician on earth, it seems, for contributions. And that, in many ways, makes this, frankly, more difficult, but also more important. This is a crucial time for our democracy. And Free Speech TV is a critical, frankly, in my humble opinion, a critical information vehicle for our democracy to help people understand what's really going on. Very often big corporate media misses much of the story. Sometimes they don't even get the story. And then you've got, of course, hardcore right-wing media like Fox News and right-wing hate radio that purposely distorts the story. So here we are, one of the few places where you're actually going to get a straight story. And frankly, I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm quite sure that, Sonali or Randy Rhodes or Amy Goodman or David Pachman or any of the fine folks you see here on Free Speech, Stephanie Miller, any of them would tell you, if you can identify something that I've said that is not true, tell me about it and I'll correct myself on the air. You will not hear that from anybody on Fox News. You will never hear that from a right-winger, particularly on right-wing hate radio. You will not hear that over, One American News. I mean, you're just not going to hear that in the right-wingosphere. And I think maybe that's what makes progressives constitutionally different from conservatives, is that conservatives believe that the ends justify the means. If you've got to cheat to win an election, that's okay because winning an election is important. Progressives believe that the ends and the means are part of the same thing. That the way we win an election, for example, is going to be a reflection of who we are and how we're going to govern. What our values and ideals are. And, the same thing with winning an argument, frankly. I can't tell you how many times I have been in debates with right-wingers, whether it was Mike Pence or whether it was, one of the Salem guys or other people, and, they'll just pull something out of their backside that is completely, it's a Donald Trump kind of lie. I mean, just a convenient thing to say. You will not hear that happen on Free Speech TV, generally speaking, and when it does, if you point it out, it will get fixed. And that's why Free Speech TV is so vital. Free Speech TV is not just a television network, it's an ethic. It's a standard, it's a way of understanding governance and what our nation is about and who we are and why we're here. And that's why it's so important that you call now 877-378-8669 and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV out. Mike from San Francisco, longtime supporter, has made a generous donation to cover the hard costs of running the pledge drive. So, the costs associated with the pledge drive, people to answer the phone, stuff like that. Mike's covering all that. So all of your contribution, 100% of it is going straight to Free Speech TV. That's a big deal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. And Mike is essentially, matching your contribution. Another longtime supporter, Andrew from San Diego, has a challenge for all of us. Our goal is to hit $240,000 by September 27. And he says if we hit our goal, he's going to kick in an additional 10 grand. So we need your calls. We need your help. Here are the premiums with a $20 gift. You have your choice of a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Fight for Democracy sticker, or a set of 3 stainless steel straws. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV webcam cover, the tote bag that says change never happens from the top down, paraphrasing the old Margaret Mead quote, or the postcard pack, Fight for Democracy postcards. There's 5 of them. With a $75 gift, the Thom Hartmann Program white ceramic mug, or the Free Speech TV black hat. With a $100 gift, there's a face mask. What can we grow from crisis? You get 2 of them, actually, for $100. With a $120 gift, you get your choice of a Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Greg Palast's new book, How Trump Stole 2020, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly. Any of those, pick one with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, we will have a virtual meet and greet, one on October 14th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, one on November 18th. You're welcome to join with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with a bumper sticker, democracy sticker, change the vote, democracy postcards, and the Vanished Voters book and my Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, we've got these meet and greets, in-person meet and greets, but we haven't scheduled any for a while. We've got the coronavirus. But you can still give a $1,000 gift. Call now, please, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help, and they need it right now. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Korten, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, this is the most important, dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation, end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these 2 great virtual book signings. Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag you're it. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And speak of the devil, as the old saying goes. This just, it was put up apparently a few hours ago, but I just saw it as I was, during the break. I poke around, see what's going on in the news. And this headline popped up. This is by Tommy Christopher, who used to be a regular on our show in D.C., at Mediaite.com. Tommy writes for Mediaite. And Joe Biden was being interviewed by Channel 6. This is in Florida, I believe in Tallahassee. Channel 6 News anchor Ginger Gadsden. And this is what he said. He said, you have a president of the United States that just introduced a proposal to wipe out Social Security. The head of the actuarial of the Department of Social Security said that if his plan for Social Security, Trump's, goes forward, the entire fund will be depleted by the middle of 2023. And then the article that Tommy Christopher wrote goes on to say, last week, Social Security Chief Actuary Stephen Goss. Now, this is just a guy, right, who runs the actuary department, the one that calculates how much money we've got and how long it's going to last, basically. Stephen Gus, sent a letter to Congress saying that under Trump's plan, if there were no other changes to the current law, if they just did what Trump said, quote, the Social Security Trust Fund would become permanently depleted by the middle of calendar year 2023, and the Disability Fund would become permanently depleted in the middle of calendar year 2021, with no ability to pay disability benefits thereafter. That's just if what Donald Trump has already done so far is allowed to remain in place after the first of the year, as he has promised will happen if he's elected president. Literally the end of Social Security. Now, I realize there are some of you watching or listening who are going, well, you know, I'm 28 years old, or I'm 41 years old, or I'm 19 years old. Why do I give a rat's ass about Social Security? Well, here's why. Because even if you're 10 years old, you have, through Social Security, a multi-million-dollar insurance policy that literally no company on earth would otherwise sell you. And that's called Social Security Disability. That's the fund that will vanish in the middle of next year if Donald Trump's current executive order continues to be the law of the land after the first of the year, or after the 20th of the year. How does that work? You say, well, I'm a young person. I didn't realize I had an insurance policy. Here's how it works. If you get in a car accident, skydiving accident, I broke my back jumping out of an airplane. Thank God I didn't, it wasn't a major, it was more of it was actually a compression fracture. So, broke your back sounds a little harsh, but, I damaged a bone in my back jumping out of an airplane. Had it gone another quarter inch or so, I'd probably be paralyzed. If I was paralyzed, and I was 20 years old when that happened. I had finally gotten Louise and my mother to come watch me jump out of an airplane. It was my third jump. And they watched me go splat on the runway. It was a dirt runway out in Mason, Michigan. And the ambulance had to come out and scrape me off the runway. I could not move. I thought I was paralyzed. I think it was mostly I had the wind knocked out of me, and I crushed that vertebrae. But they took me to the hospital. I wore a brace for 6 months. It was rough. And had I been paralyzed at the age of 20, Social Security would have paid for my medical services, my rent, my food, and would have paid to have somebody come visit me a couple days a week and make sure that I was okay, to turn me over or wash me or change my bedpan or whatever it may be. That's the insurance policy, the disability insurance policy that you have, regardless of how old you are. There are children receiving funds under this policy. If you are a young couple and you're thinking, we're going to have a child, we're good, everything's fine, and we're going to make sure our kid never has an accident. But if your kid is born with a serious birth defect, I had a cousin who had a child born with a neural tube disorder, where the opening, it was called spina bifida, the opening of the spinal cord was actually exposed. It was external to the body, so the child was largely largely unable to move and profoundly retarded for her entire life. She died in her 20s. As so often happens with these. Every day of her life, she was covered with Social Security. This is one of, this is seriously one of Franklin Roosevelt's great victories with Social Security. And it's a program that Republicans have fought against. They called it communism in 1935 when it was put into law. They have called it, up until the 1950s, they regularly called it communism. Nowadays, they call it socialism. They think that word is worse. And people aren't really afraid of communism anymore. The communists are gone. Even Cuba's not communist anymore. You got free enterprise and small private businesses there. But the Republicans hate Social Security. And they hate it for a very simple reason. It's the same reason that they hate our publicly funded fire departments. It's the same reason they hate our publicly funded roads. It's the same reason that Republicans hate even the idea that communities could have their own broadband service like Chattanooga, Tennessee does, twice as fast as pretty much anywhere else in the country for half the cost. They hate the idea that communities could be providing electricity or water or septic. These things, hey, if somebody can make a buck, it's got to be a billionaire. Government shouldn't be providing these things, and they hate Social Security for the same reason. They think that it should be, that the retirement part of Social Security should be the banks, and that multi-million-dollar insurance policy that you have through Social Security or your child has, that should be something that you should have to go out into the public marketplace and purchase. And good luck buying a policy that will cover a 20-year-old for the rest of their lives when they're paralyzed for any kind of reasonable price. It pretty much doesn't exist in this country. And that's what Donald Trump and the Republicans are trying, not just, it's not just a side effect of what they're doing. It's the main reason they're doing it. They are trying to destroy this. And thank God Joe Biden called it out just a few hours ago. Thank God. So anyhow, let's pick up your phone calls here. Terry in Ventura, California. Hey, Terry, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Thanks for all you do. My question of the day, and I'm wondering about your view, is what will be the political landscape after hopefully we have a Biden victory? I'm very impressed by the fact that the like of the Lincoln Republicans, they are just not attacking Trump, but some of their latest attacks are on all of the Trump sycophants in the Republican Party. They had a frontal attack on Mitch McConnell. Okay, my question, what will happen in the future of a potential, the sane Republicans, as few as they are, protecting us from the attack that will certainly happen to a progressive agenda when Fox News and dark money attacks it? Remember, Obama only had a really progressive coalition for a half a year, and dark money attacked it, and it was
74 days.
7 years. What I'm suggesting, Tom, is a coalition of people like Bloomberg. I would like to see Bloomberg, the chief of staff, in order to maintain some kind of working relationship with the same Republicans, because I predict Tom Cotton is going to be the major force of a post-Trump Republican Party. And how can we have a progressive agenda but yet use the Republicans to protect a progressive agenda from the frontal attack we'll certainly have with dark money and
We
Fox
can't, Terry.
News?
What you're going to see, I went off on this yesterday, and I'll go off on it again. What you're going to see, the Lincoln Republicans are still Republicans. They still believe the corporation should run the show. They still believe that billionaires should run the show. Where they got spooked was they saw naked, raw fascism coming out of Donald Trump and coming out of the people who are enabling him, which is why they're going after, Susan Collins and Mitch McConnell and I don't know who else, they've gone after. But I guarantee you that considerable talent and firepower that they are bringing against Donald Trump right now will be brought against Democrats next year. If the Democrats try to propose anything like a Green New Deal or Medicare for all or any of the other things that the Republicans who make up the Lincoln Republicans think is socialism. This is not a good thing, Terry.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
I mean, I get the old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and for the moment, the Lincoln Republicans are my friend, but I'm operating under no illusions that they're going to be our friends after the first of the year. And welcome back. Jessica in Seattle. Hey, Jessica, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I had an idea. I feel like right now the Republicans, the main thing Trump has going for him is the law and order thing. And I think that the Democrats, that this is a gift and that they should fully embrace this and say, yes, law and order, starting at the top. And that if we followed law and order and the Constitution, we wouldn't have people in the streets demonstrating.
Yeah. This is a tough one, Jessica, because if the Democrats say, yes, our cities are burning, and by the way, you're the president. Isn't this your responsibility? Then number one, they've said our cities are burning, and our cities are not burning. This isn't like like the 1960s and 70s, where the like 14 square blocks of Detroit, where I lived when I was a year old, literally burned to the ground. I mean, you've got some storefronts that have been torched, and some relatively minor acts of vandalism, but America is not on fire. And certain types of crime are up. Violent crime is up. I think that's because people are just in this insane pressure cooker. But other kinds of crime are dramatically down. Burglaries are down, things like that. So the minute that Democrats say, yes, things are terrible, but it's your fault, Donald, they've bought into the things are terrible meme, which is a lie. So they've strengthened the Republicans' position, because then the Republican rebuttal to that is, well, so you're acknowledging that the cities are on fire, huh? And it just happens to be cities where Democrats are the mayors, and mostly in states where you've got Democratic governors. And they won't even, although the Republicans won't even say the word Democratic, because they're still living out the old shtick of never say Democratic, always say Democrat with an emphasis on the rat. And so it's a very, very tricky thing, Jessica. It's a very dangerous, it's like picking up a hand grenade. I don't have an easy answer for them other than to point out that, that Donald Trump, I would try to even deflect it and say, move the conversation entirely away from whether the cities are on fire or whether black people are behaving badly, which is the subtext of pretty much everything Trump says. And of course, those two guys, that couple from Missouri with the guns and all this kind of stuff, and refocus it instead on how Donald Trump is inciting Nazis. I would start using the word Nazis constantly. I would be describing these various groups that are very fond of their own names, the Three Percenters and the Proud Boys, the Patriot. I would simply describe them as Nazis, because many of them are. Many of them, wear swastikas. They carry the Nazi flag. They're proud of that. Let's start calling them Nazis, and let's point it. And it's Nazis who are killing people. Not just the majority. All of the political violence that has involved death in the United States in the last 10 years has been committed by Nazis. It's been committed by these hardcore right-wingers. They're the ones who are showing up with the guns. They're the ones who are promoting the violence. And they're the ones that Donald Trump is encouraging. And that would be the jujitsu that I would do, as it were, in the media. But, it's a real tough one. Jessica, thank you for the call. Thought-provoking topic, and I don't know, maybe one of you has a better way to respond to this than what I'm laying out here. I can't think of one. It seems like that's the best way to do it from my point of view. We'll be back. It's 49 minutes, coming up on 10 minutes before the hour here in just a moment. Back with your calls. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Korten, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, this is the most important, dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation, end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these two great virtual book signings. Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag you're it. And welcome back. Teresa in Lincoln, Nebraska. Hey, Teresa, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I'm just really livid. I don't know. Did you see Rachel Maddow's piece last night?
where Maine
you're talking
has
about
this big
the
explosion.
Maine pastor who has apparently he's the silent spreader or somebody on his staff because he went and did this wedding and now there's like 100 people.
Prosecuted. You know,
I agree.
This is people's lives that they're playing with.
Well, he's already killed one person.
Yeah. I was so livid after that. Just about blew up. I mean, what is going on? What is wrong with people? You know, and he's supposed to be this great religious leader, and yet he don't care about other people's lives. Seriously?
But here's the, you know, if you want to know where to focus your anger, Teresa, this guy is just some guy trying to make a living, right? He's trying to make a living in the religion business. And if you want to make a good living in the religion business, you got to get a large following. You got to get a lot of people to show up every week and put money in the collection plate. And when they don't show up, they don't put money in the collection plate, but the rent is still due and you're in trouble. So, you know, he's trying to make a living in the religion business. And the president of the United States told him and all of us that it's not that big a deal. It's like the flu. President Trump's spokespeople, Rush Limbaugh, oh, it's just the common cold. Don't you know coronaviruses are just common cold viruses? Trump gets 1,500 people together for the last day of the Republican convention, none of them wearing masks, or maybe 3 or 4 of them, but, you know, the vast majority not. And he doesn't have a mask. And it's like this guy is simply trusting Trump and the Republican Party. And, you know, I don't think that this pastor actually did his homework, because I think if he did, he'd be scared to death. The guy's in his 50s.
Well, exactly.
You know,
they informed him on Saturday, and then Sunday he goes and has this church service. I mean, really? You know?
Well, it's because he didn't believe it.
He wasn't aware that it was out
thought,
there,
you know, Trump said it's a hoax. He is trusting his president. This is the power of the bully pulpit.
Do they not believe that there's 187,000 people dead already?
No, 3 days ago, Donald Trump told him it's only 9,000 people, Teresa.
I don't care. 9,000 people is 3 times what the dang, you know, they're all concerned about 9/11. Oh, my God, you know, well, that's 3 times as many. Come on.
Yeah, except 9/11 was healthy people, and this. I mean, they've got their stories. They've got a whole epistemology around this. They've got a whole worldview around this, a whole ideology that, you know, if you don't know the facts, seems consistent and seems whole. And I'll bet you anything that pastor did not say to himself, I'm going to go out and kill some people. I'll bet you anything he said to himself, you know, Donald Trump tells me this isn't a big deal. He's got a doctor in the White House right now, this new Scott guy, whatever his last name is, Scott Abbott or Adams or something. And you know, he's a real doctor. He's a medical school graduate, and he stood there with Donald Trump.
Dr. Oz. Come on.
Right, I know, and then the Food and Drug Administration, then the CDC comes out and says, oh, you don't have to get tested if you've just been exposed. It's not a big deal, and basically we're going to go for herd immunity. It is criminal. I agree, Teresa, but I'm not yet ready to blame the pastor. I'd like to know the rest of the story, but I think that Trump and his enablers have blood on their hands in a big way here. Kathy in Kalispell, Montana. Hey, Kathy, what's up?
Pleasure to talk with you, Tom. I just wanted to call and mention that there are basically, my understanding is there are 3 separate programs in Social Security. And I'm sure you're familiar with them. I would just like to ask you to clarify which ones end at which time.
Sure. The retirement fund, which is not actually called that, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
I think it's called old age insurance. That fund will end in 2023. We don't have the exact month. The Social Security Disability Fund, which pays for people, you know, like my friend Michael Hutchison, who did break his neck and was paralyzed, that fund will be exhausted in June of next year. And the Widows and Orphans Fund, I don't know. I don't know if that's tied into the disability fund or if it's a standalone fund. That would be a question for Alex Lawson or Nancy Altman.
Okay, we also have SSI, which is for people who have never been able to pay much into the system, but say developmentally disabled.
Well, that's part of the disability fund, is it not? I thought SSI was.
I see them as separate funds completely.
Oh, it may be. Kathy, your question exceeds my knowledge. I'm sorry. I don't know. We should probably next week. This would be a great topic to get Alex Lawson back on the program. It's been a long time since Alex been on, and he can talk about the consequences of this. And he'll speak from a position of really serious knowledge. So Sean will be working on that. Kathy, thanks for the call and thanks for asking the question. I'm sorry I don't have a clean answer for you, but we'll get to it. Keith, hang on. I'm going to put you back on hold because we're hitting the end of the hour. And coming up at the top of the hour on the other side here is going to be Greg Palast. And Greg is going to tell us about this amazing thing that the ACLU of Georgia just did. And then at the bottom of the hour, we will take your calls after Greg. And then at the bottom of the hour, Alexander Zaitchik is going to drop by for a brief conversation about the COVID-19 price gouging. It's going to get amazing. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
We say fight back!
Happy Thursday. It is the first day of the fall pledge drive on Free Speech TV. And a fine day it is, and a fine pledge drive. I realize this is going to be a tough haul. We're going to run this for a couple of weeks because we're competing with every politician on earth, it seems, for contributions. And that, in many ways, makes this, frankly, more difficult, but also more important. This is a crucial time for our democracy. And Free Speech TV is a critical, frankly, in my humble opinion, a critical information vehicle for our democracy to help people understand what's really going on. Very often big corporate media misses much of the story. Sometimes they don't even get the story. And then you've got, of course, hardcore right-wing media like Fox News and right-wing hate radio that purposely distorts the story. So here we are, one of the few places where you're actually going to get a straight story. And frankly, I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm quite sure that, Sonali or Randy Rhodes or Amy Goodman or David Pacman or any of the fine folks you see here on Free Speech, Stephanie Miller, any of them would tell you, if you can identify something that I've said that is not true, tell me about it and I'll correct myself on the air. You will not hear that from anybody on Fox News. You will never hear that from a right-winger, particularly on right-wing hate radio. You will not hear that over, One American News. I mean, you're just not going to hear that. in the right wingosphere. And I think maybe that's what makes progressives constitutionally different from conservatives, is that conservatives believe that the ends justify the means. If you've got to cheat to win an election, that's okay because winning an election is important. Progressives believe that the ends and the means are part of the same thing. That the way we win an election, for example, is going to be a reflection of who we are and how we're going to govern, what our values and ideals are. And, you know, the same thing with winning an argument, frankly. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've been in debates with right-wingers, whether it was Mike Pence or whether it was, you know, one of the Salem guys or other people, and, you know, they'll just pull something out of their backside that is completely, it's a Donald Trump kind of lie. I mean, just a convenient thing to say. You will not hear that happen on Free Speech TV, generally speaking, and when it does, if you point it out, it will get fixed. And that's why Free Speech TV is so vital. Free Speech TV is not just a television network, it's an ethic. It's a standard, it's a way of understanding governance and what our nation is about and who we are and why we're here. And that's why it's so important that you call now 877-378-8669 and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV out. Mike from San Francisco, longtime supporter, has made a generous donation to cover the hard costs of running the pledge drive. So, you know, the costs associated with the pledge drive, people to answer the phone, stuff like that. Mike's covering all that. So all of your contribution, 100% of it is going straight to Free Speech TV. That's a big deal. So please call now, 877-378-8669, and Mike is essentially, you know, matching your contribution. Another longtime supporter, Andrew from San Diego, has a challenge for all of us. Our goal is to hit $240,000 by September 27, and he says if we hit our goal, he's going to kick in an additional 10 grand. So we need your calls, we need your help. Here are the premiums. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Fight for Democracy sticker, or a set of 3 stainless steel straws. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV webcam cover, the tote bag that says change never happens from the top down, paraphrasing the old Margaret Mead quote, or the postcard pack, Fight for Democracy postcards. There's 5 of them. With a $75 gift, the Thom Hartmann Program white ceramic mug, or the Free Speech TV black hat. With a $100 gift, there's a face mask. What can we grow from crisis? You get 2 of them, actually, for $100. With a $120 gift, you get your choice of a Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Greg Palast's new book, How Trump Stole 2020, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly. Any of those, pick one with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, we will have a virtual meet and greet, one on October 14th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, one on November 18th. You're welcome to join with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University fall box with a bumper sticker, democracy sticker, change the vote, democracy postcards, and the Vanished Voters book and my Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, we've got these meet and greets, in-person meet and greets, but we haven't scheduled any for a while. We've got the coronavirus. But you can still give a $1,000 gift. Call now, please, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help, and they need it right now. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much. To repress the sharpening class struggle and broad discontent and rebellion, the book N.B. Turner's Is China an Imperialist Country?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, just a reminder that tomorrow, Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be doing a book signing with Seattle Town Hall virtually. It's over on their website, Seattle Town Hall, or Town Hall Seattle, I guess is the official name. And of course, it's also information at thomhartmann.com. On the line with us, and that's about my book, The Hidden History of Monopoly, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it's a fascinating topic, which I think is going to get more important right after the first of the year. But what's right in front of us right now is Donald Trump encouraging people to commit felonies to try to mess with our vote. 198,351 voters in Georgia taken off the voter roll list. Our old buddy Greg Palast is with us, the investigative journalist known for his reports for the BBC, The Guardian, and The Rolling Stone. He's the author of the new book, How Trump Stole 2020, The Hunt for America's Vanished Voters. And, of course, his previous, The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, book and film. You can find all the information at Greg Palast, P-A-L-A-S-T, gregpalast.com, and his Twitter handle's Greg_Palast. Greg, welcome back.
Glad to be with you, Tom. Boy, you know Georgia's a swing state now because the GOP Secretary of State, the guy who took Brian Kemp's place, removed 198,351 voters. That's just short of 200,000, yes. He said that they moved. They left Atlanta. They left Georgia. I didn't see any moving trucks, so I hired the nation's top address location people, and working with the ACLU, we discovered that they said 300,000 people moved, 198,351 never moved. They're right there. Their only crime is attempting to vote while black or young or Asian American. 198,351 people. We, by the way, have all of their names and addresses. We've made it public, that they're removing these voters because Georgia is now, according to the polls, split right down the middle. It's down to the wire. It's now a white minority state, and there's 2 Senate seats in play. So the GOP has only one move. They don't have enough, old white guys to elect Donald Trump or a GOP Senate, and so they've got to get rid of the non-white, non-young voters, and this is what they've done. 198,000 legal voters removed.
Yeah, remember when Donald Trump bought a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of the Central Park Five? Why not buy it'd probably take two pages, maybe. Actually, I don't know how many, what size type you'd need to go to, but, buy an ad in the Atlanta Constitution Journal, or Journal-Constitution, whichever it is, that lists literally every single name. Is your name on this list? You have been removed from the voting rolls even though you didn't leave the state.
Well, 2 things. One, no one reads anymore, especially the AJC. But we have put up, by the way, so please, if you're in Georgia, please go to SaveMyVote2020.org, SaveMyVote2020.org, and that's something that I set up with the ACLU. You can look up your name and see if you've been purged. There's a link to re-register right now. The reason why the ACLU really begged me to put out this report right now is so that people would have enough time to re-register, and I appreciate the ACLU's great work on this. I should also note, and here's a weird one, Tom, they said that 108,000 people that they said moved, those names came from the post office. Well, the Palast Investigative Fund hired the official licensee for the post office, and they went through the list and they said, no, only 3 out of 4 names here did not come from the post office. We have no idea where Georgia got these lists. So they literally said these came from the post office. It's fabricated. They made it up. I don't know where they got it. We've been asking where exactly did you get these names? Because the post office says this is fabricated. I'm not kidding you, Tom.
Have you checked voter registrations to see if they are overwhelmingly Democratic? They might just be working off a voter registration list. They're easy.
Black,
they're publicly
Asian
available.
American, young. They're mostly in Atlanta, renters, low income. We are kind of
right. They do it by zip code, right?
Yeah, so we know who these are, what the party affiliation is. We went out because we're working with the ACLU. We're not looking at affiliation, so we're not prejudiced by that. We just know the color of the voters, and when you get to black, young, Asian American renters in Atlanta, who exactly are you removing? They know what's going on, and by the way, they kind of showed their cards because the Secretary of State's response to the ACLU was, "Ignore Greg Palast. He's a Stacey Abrams shill." And I thought it was a Thom Hartmann shill. But it's,
no, I thought I was a Greg Palast shill.
You know, it's simple. I said, look, we hired the post offices. We said, can you sit down with the post office experts that we've paid for them, and we've paid for the nation's top address verification experts. This is, by the way, required by federal law. The federal law says you have to use the post office licensee, and they didn't. We talked to the post office licensee. We hired them. They said, it's all fabricated. We don't know where this comes from. And we said, look, here's the names and addresses. This is not a scientific sample. We literally went through every single name using 240 databases plus the post office historic files. These are the licensed people that are supposed to, by law, do this work for the states. And they said that 63% of the list, that is 200 out of 300,000 voters that they said moved, didn't. And that, by the way, you know, we've been to this rodeo before. Back in 2018, you know, when I was down in Georgia, I was standing at that polling station, one voter after another saying that they were thrown out, that they couldn't vote there anymore, including, of course, Christine Jordan, 92 years old. I was with her when she was thrown out of the polling station. Her 50th year of voting at that station, they said she was no longer registered because she'd moved from her house. I went to the house that they said that she moved out of. I was there, and there was Martin Luther King's photo on the wall having dinner with her because this is Martin Luther King's cousin. You know, and again, where do they get this idea that these people have moved? I met them. I talked to them.
They're just making this stuff up, Greg. This is the excuse to take them off the voting rolls. You know, Brian Kemp won the election by 50,000 votes after throwing, as you documented, several 100,000 people off the voting rolls prior to the 2018 election. Of course they're going to do this. I mean,
right, so they did this. And the problem is that we don't have it. Normally, what I discovered, I remember I used to work with the Justice Department. Now it's turned into an injustice department. Who do I go to? Who do you call?
Right.
You know,
right.
You know, this is.
Well, you call the ACLU, I guess.
We've called the ACLU, and by the way, yeah, it's
we should be looking for Republican victories within this 200,000 vote margin of purge here, you know, and contest absolutely everything, you know, when the election happens. But secondly, you know, okay, you busted Georgia. How extensively is this going on in other states that have Republican secretaries of state?
Oh, boy. I just found out this morning Florida's using the same system. And, you know, the election is going to come down to Florida and to Georgia. And Ohio is using the system. And I should also say that the Republicans are trying to force the state of Wisconsin to eliminate voters using a similar purge system. And amazingly, the Board of Elections there has actually asked the Palace Investigative Fund to use, you know, we have extensive technical ability in this area to go through these lists to help them out. I mean, so you're talking about it started in Georgia in 2018 because of a Supreme Court decision of months earlier, which allowed a new system of purging. But you can't make stuff up. You can't say I got this from the post office, and the post office says we don't know. So yeah, it's spreading all over into those swing states.
Yeah,
so
apparently you can.
Look up your registration, please, right now at SaveMyVote2020.org.
SaveMyVote2020.org. You got it. Greg Palast, GregPalast.com. And don't forget Greg's newest book. It is so cool. Hang on just a second.
The Thom Hartmann Program.
How Trump Stole 2020. Thank you, Greg.
You got me. Bye, Tom.
Great talking with you. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Pat in Portland, listening on X-Ray FM. Hey, Pat, what's up?
I live in Multnomah County, and I wanted to let you know that I contacted in Portland, Oregon, and I contacted my elections office and asked them if I could pick up my voter's pamphlet and my ballot. And they said on September 21st, that's when we receive them, so you can pick them up the next day. And all you need to do is make sure that you fill out an absentee ballot form. We have them in the office, but they're also online. So if you fill it out, print it, and bring it in, you won't have to wait, that amount of time while you fill it out. And I asked her, I said, can I return them? And she goes, you can return them any day you want. We're open between 8 and 5. I said, what happens if I return them? Where do they go? And she goes, they go into a box. And that box goes into a locked room. And I said, well, when do they get counted? And she goes, they start getting counted 3 weeks before the election. And I said, if I don't pick them up, when do you mail them out? And she said, October 14th. And to me, that's too late. So I encourage you. I know another woman spoke. I guess she was from Washington earlier this morning. Mm-hmm. And she said you can pick up your ballots, too. And I said, how do I know, can you get my ballot? How do you find my ballot? And she goes, we just check your signature on your absentee form with your signature that we have on file, and then we give you the ballot.
Well, that's great.
So I would just urge you to encourage all your listeners to go pick up their ballots. You can return them the next day if you want. But you also get the ballot pamphlet, voter's pamphlet, if you want to look at some more information on the questions and the other people that are running. But I think it's important if anybody can get there. And I said to her, you sure? She goes, don't worry, we're in Oregon. Our votes all get counted here. But I'm just saying maybe for other states, if they could ask to go pick them up. And just go pick them up and turn them in the next day. So, everybody's talking about this thing where it's not going to be counted, 4, 5, 6 days later. But if everybody gets their votes in by September 22nd, 23rd, and they start counting them.
Makes it a lot easier. I'm with you. Pat, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. And thanks for doing that homework. I really appreciate it. And for educating me as an Oregon resident. Thank you. Sue in Sonora, California. Hey, Sue, what's up?
Hi, I just wanted to let you know, referring to an earlier caller who asked about the Supplemental Security Income Program. I'm a retired Social Security claims rep. And that program is not part of Social Security. It's not funded out of the payroll tax. It's funded from general revenue. It's
somebody just corrected me on that on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that fund pays for what?
Pardon?
And that fund pays for what?
The SSI fund? Mm-hmm. It's a welfare type program that's for low income people who are disabled or over age 65. It's not part of Social Security. We just administer
the supplemental income.
Right. We administer it, but it's not part of the Social Security.
Did that come along with the Great Society? Does that go back to LBJ?
It goes back to 1974 when the Social Security Administration was given the job of administering what used to be county programs for the disabled and the aged.
Fascinating. So this was Jerry Ford's work or Richard Nixon. So who knows?
Yes, it was more like Ford. Yeah.
Yeah. Sue, thank you. Thank you very much. I continually am amazed at the level of expertise among all the people, or among the many people who watch this program. It just blows my mind. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Daily rants and weekly op-eds at HartmannReport.com. It's free and there's no ads. HartmannReport.com. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Corton, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, "This is the most important, dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation," end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these two great virtual book signings. Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag you're it. And just a reminder, tomorrow night, 6 p.m., Seattle Town Hall, Seattle. I will be doing an hour-long riff. You got to have a ticket to get in. It's online. You can do it from the comfort of your home. And about my new book, The Hidden History of Monopolies and How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And it goes a lot deeper than that. There's a lot to it, and I think you'll find it fascinating. Jeff in Portland. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. Always great to hear from Greg Pallas. And, you know, Tom, despite all this voter suppression and election rigging that the GOP and Trump are trying to do that Greg and you just talked about, you know, I believe Ed Markey's victory this week just gave the Biden campaign blueprints to blow open the presidential race. And he can do that by unfurling the progressive sails, especially in regard to climate, that Biden can harness that youth vote as Markey just so successfully did. And since younger voters are more likely to vote in person, getting out the youth vote should lessen the chance for a red mirage, which I think, Tom, might be even a bigger concern this year than red shift. Because, you know, in my opinion, with so many people voting by mail, I think that will help offset some of the major red shift we've seen in the past. Not to lessen the, you know, people got to check their voting registration, as Greg just said. But, you know, when you're getting your ballot in the mail, you know you're registered, you know, and if you don't get it, then you know you got to go and do something. So I think voting by mail, that's a major reason I think Trump doesn't want people to vote by mail. You know, he wants people to show up.
He has said it, Jeff. He has said it. He said if people vote by mail, there'll never be another Republican elected. I keep saying, the only way these guys can win is by cheating. Jeff, well said. Thank you very much. Bob in Marseilles, Illinois. Hey, Bob, what's up?
Oh, not much. I just, there was a call back before Dr. Wolff was on that mentioned the 23rd Amendment. And basically, I don't think the 23rd Amendment is of any use now, or if the disaster should happen and Trump was reelected, simply because we don't have a cabinet, we've got a revolving door.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I thought it was the 25th.
I would love to see somebody come up with a list of changes in the order of succession. Because I think Secretary of State is, third on the list? Changes in the order of succession for Trump, and compare it to the 4-year or the 8 years that Barack Obama was in. And as some sort of indication of when we've ever had stability with this goof.
Yeah, well, we've never had stability with this goof. Spot on, Bob. By the way, it's the 25th Amendment, not the 23rd. But, you know, I absolutely knew what you were talking about. The 23rd Amendment, as I recall, was the one that gave D.C. Eleanor Holmes Norton, you know, a non-voting member of the U.S. House of Representatives. Dave in Claremore, Oklahoma. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Oh, I just wanted to call, and my wife and I were talking about this Social Security thing, and if we get kicked off Social Security, we don't have much hope. And I know I'm not alone in that. People just don't, you know, that's all they've got. Pensions are all gone, and that's all. And we've paid for it forever. And my wife brought up the idea, the thought that what about nursing homes? They'd be gutted. All those people would have to go out. Because Social Security pays most of that. Medicare?
No, it's actually Medicaid that pays most nursing home funds, and so. But the Republicans want to cut Medicaid too. The proposal that Donald Trump laid out, and that is consistent with Republican proposals all the way back to Reagan, is that Medicaid be block granted, so that you say to a state, okay, you know, you used $20 billion worth of Medicaid, federal Medicaid money last year. This is the money that the states use to pay for low-income people, children, and elderly people in nursing homes. You used $20 billion of the Medicaid last year. That's all you're ever going to get going forward. And what that means is that every year, medical inflation averages around 7% a year. Every year, they're going to have to cut about 7% of the people off the Medicaid rolls because they won't be able to pay for it. So, but, you know, you're absolutely... Go ahead, Dave.
What happens to those people's Social Security, though? I mean, if they're old and in a home like that, they're receiving Social Security somehow.
They are, and that Social Security may be what they're using to pay part of their expenses, to upgrade to a nicer room, to get decent food. I don't know. I haven't been through that process myself, and so I can't tell you, Dave. But I know that the bottom line here is these are all Democratic programs: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. Every single one of those programs were passed by Democrats over the loud and unified objections of Republicans who called them socialism. And it has been the mission of the Republican Party since the 1930s to destroy these programs and ideally to force Democrats to destroy them. And they're going to continue doing that. And Donald Trump is feeding that fire. And, he's doing it because he knows that the right-wing billionaires and the banksters will love him for it, and they'll throw more money his way. Dave, thanks for the call. This is outrageous. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Stick around. We'll be back with more of your calls and the news of the day. And we're gonna check in with a guest too right after the break. Stick around. Well, happy Thursday. It is the first day of the fall pledge drive on Free Speech TV. And a fine day it is, and a fine pledge drive. I realize this is going to be a tough haul. We're going to run this for a couple of weeks because we're competing with every politician on earth, it seems, for contributions. And that, in many ways, makes this, frankly, more difficult, but also more important. This is a crucial time for our democracy. And Free Speech TV is a critical, frankly, in my humble opinion, a critical information vehicle for our democracy to help people understand what's really going on. Very often big corporate media misses much of the story. Sometimes they don't even get the story. And then you've got, of course, hardcore right-wing media like Fox News and right-wing hate radio that purposely distorts the story. So here we are, one of the few places where you're actually going to get a straight story. And frankly, I don't think I'm alone in this. I'm quite sure that, Sonali or Randy Rhodes or Amy Goodman or David Pakman or any of the fine folks you see here on Free Speech, Stephanie Miller, any of them would tell you, if you can identify something that I've said that is not true, tell me about it and I'll correct myself on the air. You will not hear that from anybody on Fox News. You will never hear that from a right-winger, particularly on right-wing hate radio. You will not hear that over, One American News. I mean, you're just not going to hear that in the right-wingosphere. And I think maybe that's what makes progressives constitutionally different from conservatives, is that conservatives believe that the ends justify the means. If you've got to cheat to win an election, that's okay because winning an election is important. Progressives believe that the ends and the means are part of the same thing. That the way we win an election, for example, is going to be a reflection of who we are and how we're going to govern. What our values and ideals are. And, the same thing with winning an argument, frankly. I can't tell you how many times I've been in debates with right-wingers, whether it was Mike Pence or whether it was, one of the Salem guys or other people, and, they'll just pull something out of their backside that is completely, it's a Donald Trump kind of lie. I mean, just a convenient thing to say. You will not hear that happen on Free Speech TV, generally speaking, and when it does, if you point it out, it will get fixed. And that's why Free Speech TV is so vital. Free Speech TV is not just a television network, it's an ethic. It's a standard, it's a way of understanding governance and what our nation is about and who we are and why we're here. And that's why it's so important that you call now 877-378-8669 and make your contribution to help Free Speech TV out. Mike from San Francisco, longtime supporter, has made a generous donation to cover the hard costs of running the pledge drive. So, the costs associated with the pledge drive, people to answer the phone, stuff like that. Mike's covering all that. So all of your contribution, 100% of it is going straight to Free Speech TV. That's a big deal. So please call now, 877-378-8669. And Mike is essentially, matching your contribution. Another longtime supporter, Andrew from San Diego, has a challenge for all of us. Our goal is to hit $240,000 by September 27. And he says if we hit our goal, he's going to kick in an additional 10 grand. So we need your calls. We need your help. Here are the premiums with a $20 gift. You have your choice of a Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, the Fight for Democracy sticker, or a set of 3 stainless steel straws. With a $50 gift, you get the Free Speech TV webcam cover, the tote bag that says change never happens from the top down, paraphrasing the old Margaret Mead quote, or the postcard pack, Fight for Democracy postcards. There's 5 of them. With a $75 gift, the Thom Hartmann Program white ceramic mug, or the Free Speech TV black hat. With a $100 gift, there's a face mask. What can we grow from crisis? You get 2 of them, actually, for $100. With a $120 gift, you get your choice of a Ask Me About Free Speech TV t-shirt, my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, Greg Palast's new book, How Trump Stole 2020, my newest book, The Hidden History of Monopoly. Any of those, pick one with a $120 gift. With a $240 gift, we will have a virtual meet and greet, one on October 14th at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, one on November 18th. You're welcome to join with a $240 gift. With a $360 gift, there's the Thom Hartmann University Fall Box with a bumper sticker, democracy sticker, change the vote, democracy postcards, and the Vanished Voters book and my Monopoly book. And with a $1,000 gift, we've got these meet and greets, in-person meet and greets, but we haven't scheduled any for a while. We've got the coronavirus. But you can still give a $1,000 gift. Call now, please, 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help, and they need it right now. 877-378-8669. Thank you so much. Hi, Thom Hartmann here. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Corton, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, this is the most important dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation, end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these 2 great virtual book signings, Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag you're it. And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. I'm doing this riff on monopolies here tomorrow night at Town Hall Seattle. A new book out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. And along similar lines, it seems, Alexander Zaitchik has a brilliant piece up over at in the New Republic. It's titled How to Break a Big Pharma Monopoly on COVID-19 Vaccine. Alexander, his website is Zaitchik.com, Zaitchik.com. He's also the author of The Gilded Rage, A Wild Ride Through Donald Trump's America. Alexander, welcome back to the program. It's great talking with you. How do we, well, first of all, before we get to the vaccine, let's start with remdesivir. Give me the story of this drug that seems to have a small but measurable effect on very, very sick people with coronavirus. Where did it come from? How was it developed? Who paid for that? What are they charging for it? Who's making money on it?
Right. Well, it's a long story that involves a lot of different layers of investment, beginning with basic research funded by the National Institutes of Health into the
That's
field.
you and me.
Yeah, it's you and me and everyone listening, exactly. Billions of dollars went into the general area that remdesivir represents, which is an antiviral targeting certain RNA proteins. And that research allowed two researchers with Gilead Sciences, which is a major pharmaceutical company based in California, to quote unquote invent this molecule, which they were originally hoping would have activity against Ebola. And it was shelved when that proved not to be the case. It was later rediscovered during a scan of Gilead's molecular library, they call it, by the Centers for Disease Control, who thought that it could have activity against things like coronaviruses, which it turns out, with some asterisks, that it appears to have activity against people with severe COVID. But the trials that led to this discovery and its eventual fast track authorization by the FDA was completely paid for almost by government and military agencies. So you have
so let me just get this straight, Alexander.
Yeah.
So we paid for the raw research that led to this category of drugs. We paid for the specific research that led to this particular drug. We paid for the safety and efficacy studies on this drug. So the manufacturer now, how did they get exclusive right to manufacture this? And what does it cost to make? And what are they going to charge us for it?
They have a markup right now. There's different tiers that they're charging, but basically they marked up 50 times the cost of manufacture in a pandemic.
Whoa.
Unconscionable. And the reason this is allowed to happen is a loophole in the law. We have legalized monopoly in the form of patents, which we allow to take place even in the field of medicine, which there's a good argument that you should not have monopoly control of medicines when you can drive up the price, especially in a public health emergency like we have right now. But there's also a mechanism within the law for the government to override those legal monopolies. And that was what I was getting at with my article, which is basically a contribution to a chorus of voices that are coming out now saying, let's use that power, that override power, which is written very explicitly into the law for crises like this.
So rather than doing it the stupid way, like we did with remdesivir, that costs us a fortune and makes 50 times, that's mind-boggling. You walk into a store and buy anything, you buy a $20 shovel and maybe it costs $3 to manufacture. That's not a 50-time markup, right? From manufacturer to wholesale, from wholesale to retail. It's like, that's mind-boggling. 50 friggin' times.
Have been compared to printing presses for money. That's basically what they are. Because it's an inelastic market.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are going to pay hospitals.
So how do we do this with the vaccine? We've got two major vaccine candidates that look like they're probably going to be the ones that are going to be rolled out just in time for the election. And then there's I guess a couple dozen others that are in development just in the United States. How much are we paying for all this, and who's going to own these, and what do we do about this?
Well, through BARDA, the U.S. government has contributed, I think, upwards of $10 billion at this point for the various vaccine research programs. That's the Pentagon agency that funds biomedical research. And they've put billions into these vaccine candidates. And the markup won't be quite as high for vaccines, but we don't know because there's no transparency with these companies, even though they're using government funds. And there's also no price controls. The government is not asking them to make promises beyond vague assurances that the price will be reasonable. But they've quoted numbers, I think $37 a shot. There's still considerable markups. And there's a very good argument that they should be, zero markups with the vaccine, again, during a public health emergency like this.
Right. During World War II, Franklin Roosevelt, when he put Harry Truman in charge of ferreting out waste and fraud in military contracting, gave a public speech in which he said, there will be not one new millionaire made as a result of this war. And And Trump is going, hey, we've got a war against a virus. We can make lots of millionaires. I mean, how unusual is the technique, the strategy that they are pursuing right now compared to the way it's normally done? Or is this, do we just get routinely ripped off by pretty much every drug that comes to market?
Yeah, the pharmaceutical industry is acting the way it always acts right now. It's just an opportunity for us to sort of really pay attention to it because it's under the light of this pandemic, and there's so much attention being paid to the quote-unquote race for a vaccine and other treatments and diagnostics around COVID-19. But this is what they do. It's what we allow them to do. It's what they're rewarded for doing. It's what we've refused to try and stop with our democratic system that they have a lock on. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry spends more in Washington than any other industry, and it has paid off for them. We have tools in U.S. law that can put a check on their power and increase access and equity to medicines for the taxpayers who are paying to develop them. We just don't use them.
We're talking with Alexander Zaitchik. He's the author of The Gilded Rage, Wild Ride Through Donald Trump's America, and most recently, a great piece over at the New Republic, How to Break a Big Pharma Monopoly on a COVID-19 Vaccine. Alexander, what, just to wrap this up, we just have a couple minutes. What can we do about this? If I was to call my elected officials, what would I say? Or is that even the appropriate pressure point? What's it going to take for the American people to stop getting ripped off by this insanely profitable industry that spends more to bribe politicians than any other industry in America?
It's a big question, but on this particular issue, it's an executive decision. And generally speaking, this is going to require a new executive approach to the industry because all of the main tools for addressing this come from Health and Human Services, and then beyond that, the White House. We need people at HHS, which controls the NIH system, to enforce public interest mechanisms for public control over the drugs which result from government-funded research, which is almost all the drugs. There's research coming out lately showing exactly how dependent the industry is on $43 billion a year distributed by NIH. Without that money, they don't exist. The drugs don't exist.
It's our money, yeah. But if HHS is in charge of this, that's Alex Azar. He used to be the CEO of Eli Lilly, and when he was the CEO, he doubled the price of insulin, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think we can expect much under this current administration. However, it's never too early to start building pressure and awareness around this issue for future administrations. And I think there's already a lot of anger in this country. Drug prices are routinely at the top of people's lists. There's a lot of political will here that can be mobilized and tapped if we can just get some leadership on this.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Are there any champions for these causes in Congress?
Lyle Doggett out of Texas, Liz Warren, Jan Zaitchik is good. There are bills out there that don't have a lot of traction or supporters. Yes, sorry. There are leaders and the ideas are there. Everyone knows what the problem is and the solutions are lying right in front of us.
Oh, amazing. Alexander Zaitchik, check out his article, How to Break a Big Pharma Monopoly on COVID-19 Vaccine, over at the New Republic. Alexander, thanks so much for dropping by. Great talking with you.
Thank you, Tom. Likewise.
My pleasure. We'll be back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this. It's 45 minutes past the hour. Stick around. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where despair is not an option. No, we get active here on the Thom Hartmann Program. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Ted in Brockton, Massachusetts. Hey, Ted, thanks for watching us live on Twitter. What's up?
Thanks, Tom. I'm a big fan. I wanted to get right into it. I know you're almost out of time. I have a question about the upcoming election. I know that there's been some smearing going on that the Ted Sellers campaign doesn't have enough legs, but I think those fat cat Gary types aren't going to be able to give us...
Yeah, Ted, this is the second call where I've had people calling in about races in Massachusetts, and I literally have no idea what you're talking about. So I don't know if you're trying to troll me or what, but I don't know what you're talking about. Brian in Granville, Michigan. Hey, Brian, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'm worried about presuming that the Democrats win in November and put Trump on trial. The right is never going to believe that these were actually fair trials. So how do we prevent in the next round them just having show trials for any Democrat that goes up against them?
I expect that. And that's, that I think is the real danger here, Brian, is that, if Trump gets reelected, I think we can start expecting to see people go to jail.
And even
if that was that your question, I think I might have missed a couple of words.
I'm more, if Biden gets elected and we put Trump on trial for everything he's done, how are we going to prevent in 8 years the next
setting
Republican,
the precedent?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, that is exactly, this is what Jerry Ford was thinking. This is what Bill Clinton was thinking. If I go after them, they'll come after me. Or even if I go after them, I've established a precedent that has never before been established in America. And these show trials of previous administrations are the stuff that other democracies are famous for. My guess is that there will not be, in a Biden administration, there will not be any federal pursuit of Donald Trump. Because, frankly, I think the state people who are going after him will take him down just fine, thank you very much. They've got more than enough on state tax evasion, on bank fraud, on real estate fraud. They had nailed Ivanka and Don Jr. back before the election. I kept waiting for that to turn into an actual prosecution where they were lying to people to sell those condos. They were lying about their occupancy sales. They were lying about their costs. There was a whole bunch of stuff that these guys were lying about that they got busted for. So maybe we can avoid that, Brian. I don't know, but the bottom line is we are wandering into an absolutely uncharted political territory here.
Well, unfortunately, it reminds me a lot of what happened with the fall of the Roman Republic, because they had the same thing. They had some, normal prosecutions of people who were incredibly corrupt, and then, the next administration came around and said, oh, well, they prosecuted them, so we can just prosecute anybody we don't like.
Right, and then it went on steroids with Augustus.
Yes.
Who was arguably the last real Caesar. Look at what just happened in Brazil. Where they went after Lula. There's a discussion about this in Mexico right now because of the high levels of corruption in that government. There are other governments that are doing this, and it's a very, very fine line between prosecuting corrupt former officials on the one hand and using those very same laws for political retribution. And it's one that, Brian, I think your concern is 100% legitimate, and I share it. And, we're just going to have to see how it all plays out. Brian, thank you for the call. And we'll be right back. It's 10 minutes before the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Stick around. The hidden monopolies, how big business destroyed the American dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Corton, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, this is the most important, dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation, end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these 2 great virtual book signings. Powell's in Portland, and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag You're It. Welcome back. Dave in Las Vegas. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Thanks again, Mr. Hartman. I wanted to just talk about how, executive mandate affects our most vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I had an older brother that was schizophrenic, right? Ronald Reagan passed a law saying that if someone was, put into a mental hospital who was schizophrenic, and say that patient did not want to be there, they could sign a waiver, and then the mental hospital couldn't keep them. Now, keep in mind, these people are psychotic. They're schizophrenic. They're not in their right mind. Reagan passed this law. My parents several times had actually put my brother in a mental hospital because he was suicidal, and they kept releasing him. Well, he ended up killing himself, threw himself in front of the car here in Vegas.
Oh, my God.
So
I'm so sorry to hear that, Dave.
It's just how that correlates with what's going on with Social Security now and how that affects our most vulnerable. Real nice guys.
Yeah.
Some of these
I don't know if Reagan did that by executive order or if the Republicans passed a law, but it was Reagan who, both as governor of California first and then as president, I believe, basically emptied our mental hospitals. And for the first time since the Great Depression, we had a serious nationwide problem of homelessness. And the majority of those homeless people were mentally ill. And now more than half of the people in our prison systems are diagnosably mentally ill. And you're absolutely right. This is the kind of damage that a president running off some really cranky ideas can inflict, and in fact has been inflicted. Thank you, Dave, for sharing your story. Robert in Price, Utah. Hey, Robert, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I'm a disabled veteran, and I wanted to get some information out to veterans. As part of the COVID response, the VA quit sending out the bills for the copay on your medicines, but the bill doesn't stop. And if veterans get so far behind on their copay, they get thrown off the system. And they did not tell anybody about this. I just found out about it by accident. And what veterans need to do is call their copay number on the 24th of every month and keep up to date on that. Otherwise they'll get hit with a big bill or get thrown off the system.
Amazing.
That's
the
all I wanted to
these
tell.
people just. Yeah, thank you. You did a great job of it, Robert. Thank you very much. Keith, in Greenville, South Carolina. Hey, Keith, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for holding me over from last hour. I'm so pissed off at Trump for his felony voter fraud action that I went and looked up the law in South Carolina. Then I went to the state attorney general's website and sent him an email urging him to make a public statement saying what is legal and what isn't legal about voting in this state, and as well as send the law to William Barr and tell him, since he was on CNN yesterday and said, I don't know what state law is, and tell him what South Carolina law is. It's illegal for what Trump did. He committed a felony. And then I went and had copy and pasted that, and I sent a letter to the editor of the local paper.
Yeah, Barr was just lying through his teeth, as he frequently does. Amazing, very, very grim stuff. Keith, thank you. Keep on it and let us know how it works out. Latham in Flint, Michigan. Hey, Latham, what's up?
Hi, how are you today? I'm in Flint in Genesee County, and with the last election, with our primary, we had 4,000 ballots that were knocked off because they were spoiled. And what I mean when I say spoiled, like when you get the mail-in ballots, people would sign, do all this stuff inside, and if you didn't mark everything correctly, it was dismissed. If you didn't sign the outside of the envelope, it was dismissed. So it wasn't counted. And we had 4,000 in Genesee County that were not counted. And I think that people need more voter learning on the ballots and stuff, to know education, to know what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree, Lathan. And in some states, the person making the challenge saying, that person's signature doesn't look like the signature on file, for example. Some of these are cut and dry. They forgot to sign it. Okay, sorry, you can't count the ballot. But more often than not, you have a Democrat and a Republican who are both looking at the signature, right? Two people. And if the Republican says that, and knowing that this came from a predominantly Democratic voting area, particularly an area that's predominantly Hispanic or African American, the Republicans will almost always say, that doesn't look right to me. And, sometimes they just kind of roll over and say, okay, I'm tired of fighting about it. We'll just set that ballot aside. And that is, and 4,000 in the primary, that's pretty bad. But in the general election, you're going to have, the Republican Party has already hired 50,000 people to do this in polling places all over the United States to yell, that ballot should not be counted. And that's going to be coming to a town near you. So take Lathan's story seriously, because it's a real story. And this is what's really going on. The Republicans cannot win elections. We have not had a Republican elected president in the United States by a majority of the people for over 30 years. 1988 was the last year that a Republican became president as a result of a majority of the votes in America. Settle on, think on that for a minute. And get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are Omaha Steaks, gourmet you can trust. More information at omahasteaks.com, code TOM. CB Distillery, CBD for sleeping. More info at cbdistillery.com, code TOM. The Clean Phone Pro, phone sanitizer and charger. More info at thenewdealshop.com. Plexiderm Wrinkle Reducer, real science, real results. More info at plexiderm.com, code TOM. ExpressVPN, the VPN that just works. More information at expressvpn.com/Tom. And TEEF, TEEF, Smarter Pet Dental Health. For more information, teef.com, code TOM.
Hi, Thom Hartmann here. Hey, my new book is out, The Hidden History of Monopolies, How Big Business Destroyed the American Dream. We're having a coronavirus-safe book tour. I'll be at Powell's virtual bookstore event in conversation with David Corton, Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Go to powells.com and get your tickets for the live stream event. And on Friday, September 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, I'll be at a Town Hall Seattle virtual event, and you can get your tickets for that live stream event at townhallseattle.org. There are also links at thomhartmann.com. I'll be taking you from the birth of America through FDR to the Reagan Revolution and today. In the foreword of my book, Ralph Nader says, this is the most important dynamic book on the cancers of monopoly by giant corporations written in our generation, end quote. So be sure to go to thomhartmann.com and sign up for one of these two great virtual book signings, Powell's in Portland and Town Hall Seattle. Don't miss it and sign up now. Tag, you're it.
We say fight back!